for another episode of Outdoors People. First, there's me, C.W. Getz, and her, Maya Marzaki. Good evening. It's Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. Hey, man, we have got a 12-degree Fahrenheit temperature here in north central Illinois. And kids, that for the rest of the world for you, it is negative 11 Celsius. It's very cool. By the way, tomorrow, though, is going to be negative 25 with the wind chill factor. But that equates to negative 32 degrees Celsius.
Oh my gosh.
How's that for cold, man?
Oh my gosh.
That's cool.
Can't believe it. It is exactly the opposite of here.
Really?
Yes, it is
What do you
20 degrees Celsius and it means 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's
So
not how much is
80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, but how much in Celsius, you said?
30.
30. You know what? Marielle was looking on something. It was 40 degrees the other day somewhere in Brazil.
Yes.
And I said, you would die. She goes, yeah, you almost feel like you are going to die. I can't believe that. It's like 120 degrees. That is, it was 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
It is insane. It is being hard to just walk outside of her house during the day. It's like so hot, so hot. It is unbelievable.
She stands, she goes, in the sun. Oh no, she goes, in the shade, in the sun. You go, really? She goes, you feel like you're gonna die. So I'm like, oh my God. I don't know how.
Probably you will. I don't know. Let's see.
She loves the cold weather. I mean, like her hands are almost frozen here sometimes when she leaves without her gloves. And she's like, yeah, no problem. I'm like, oh, and she loves the cold weather. I said, after you go through that kind of intense heat, I suppose maybe I would love the cold weather too, but which I don't, but it's just me.
Yeah, you guys have both here, right? We just have the summer time pretty much. And the winter time is just feels better, but it is not cold.
Yeah.
So, sometimes I miss the snow because of that, because it is too hot. It is hard to live.
I was there in Belo Horizonte, I was there in Sao Sebastião too, and São Paulo.
Yeah.
In July, I believe, right?
Yeah,
and that was your winter
time.
Yeah. Because I remember it got cold at night. It really literally got to very cold. I mean, because we were staying at hostel. But when I was there in January of last year, it was a year ago, it was during the summer. It was during your summer. So I remember it being hot and it rained every day and it was humid and
Yeah, and it rains lots every day in the summer.
Your underwear sticks to your butt. You know how that goes. So, I don't mean up, kids, just on. So, there we go. Hey, you know what? We did something fun last weekend. We went to the Chicago RV show, which I'm sure our guest has been there before. We'll ask him about that when he bring him out. But it was so cool. There were like 1 million, and I'm not even making that number up. 1 million RVs there. Anything, or not just RVs, but campers, pull behind, fifth wheel, little teardrop ones, little 2-man or 1-man campers, all the way to a Class A, like 41, 43 foot things that looks like the Van Halen tour bus. And I'm not making that up.
Yeah.
Mary all said, oh my gosh, my dream house. I'm like, yeah, okay. Well,
right.
Now we know what you want. Let's see about how we can get one.
Right.
That's going to be the Outdoors People tour bus. You ready for that one?
Oh, I was born ready. Please make it happen.
You and Fernando and me and Marielle will go on that tour of the world. I love it.
And my new little puppy.
And your puppy. That's right. We have a bodyguard. We have to have a bodyguard. All rock stars do, man. So I love it. Well, let's meet tonight's guest, shall we? Yeah. Without any further ado, Cliff Jacobson is one of respected outdoors writers and wilderness paddlers. He is a retired environmental science teacher, an outdoors skills instructor, a canoeing and camping consultant, and the author of more than a dozen top-selling books and a popular video on canoeing and camping. Cliff is a distinguished Eagle Scout, a recipient of the American Canoe Association's prestigious Legends of Paddling Award, and a member of the ACA Hall of Fame.
let's say that you are in a car, okay, and you're driving, okay, and your friend is a NASCAR race champion, okay, and you're driving your Buick a little bit fast going around the curb. And so you hit the brakes as you go around, and your friend casually turns to you and says, this is not a good idea. You don't want to hit your brakes in the middle of a curve. And then you get a little indignant and you say, I've been driving for 40 years and I've been hitting my brakes in the middle of a curve for 40 years now. I've never had a problem. So your friend turns to you and he says, try it at twice the speed. Think about that, because what Kevin and I do is twice the speed. Okay? Most people will never get to twice the speed because their idea of the most wilderness that they will ever do is the Boundary Waters canoe area. Okay?
Yeah.
They will never go beyond it, which is fine. So you can get away with a lot of stuff that you don't do right in a controlled park-like environment. Though you can die in the Boundary Waters too if you do stupid stuff. People do die there. Okay? But if you go to Canada, you go to Ontario, things are going to be a lot tougher.
You're not going to
go
away
to
with that stuff
Manitoba,
then,
it gets
right?
even more rugged.
Yeah.
You go to the Northwest Territories and none of it. Now you're above the tree line. You don't have trees, okay? You have big, huge, pounding rapids, ice cold water. You make a mistake, you die.
Yeah.
Okay? In the Boundary Waters, you capsize, the water's warm enough, you got your life jacket on, you're going to live through the experience. You may not on an Arctic river.
And with that, welcome to the show, Cliff.
Hi, guys. I look a little younger in that video.
Probably about 2-3 years younger, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, remember that though? Remember that day? Everybody had a cold. I think it was everybody had a cold at that show. It was Canoecopia like 2-3 years ago.
Wow.
3 years ago.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah. How you doing?
Hey, for 84, I can't kick, I got a little trouble in one wrist, but hey, I can still paddle. What the
Well,
heck,
I'll tell you what, you don't look 84. Maya, you with me on this? Yeah.
Oh yes, I wish I can be 84 like you are. Like it's very impressive and it is a very good inspiration.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I could look like you. How's that?
Oh boy, it's getting thick in here, deep in here. I love it. The compliments. I love it.
It's good. It's really good to see you guys. It's really, I smile. I was hoping that Maya would be on the show because remember we got together at my house that time. We had such a good time.
Oh, I remember. I remember very well.
That was a lot of fun.
We enjoyed that.
Of course, I would be here. I would never miss that.
I'll tell you what else.
She's both my girls are going to be at Canoecopia this year. Oh wait, I gotta get. You know what? I live in the place where. Hang on a minute. I have bugs. We live with, it's either box elder bugs or these Asian lady beetles.
Oh, yeah,
and they're all over there in the house. I can get dozens of them every day. They come in the winter, and there's nothing you can do to get them out except kill them.
I wish Marielle was here because Cliff, you and her could share stories about these ladybugs. I'm telling you, middle of the night, she'll wake up and she'll go, I hear something. It's on the ceiling.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you guys get them too in Brazil? These Asian lady beetles are terrible.
Oh yeah, lots of those
little
flies things. Yeah.
And if you crush them, they smell really
bad.
They
do. I don't hate that smell. I don't hate it, but it's not the worst thing I've ever smelled. The skunks right up. No, stink bugs. Those are worse for sure. Stink bugs.
Yeah, stink bugs are pretty bad. But you guys are outdoors guys, outdoor people. Why are you complaining?
Hey,
because they're in the house.
That was a great answer. That's a great answer. We don't. Yeah, well, we do, don't we, Cliff? Yeah, we go in there.
We have a handheld vacuum cleaner in every room of the house.
Wow.
And then one of my chores is I have to clean them out. I get a little note from Susie that says, please clean out all vacuum cleaners. And there's a certain way that it has to be done, because if I don't do it her way, then she gets mad at me.
Oh, I know what her mean.
Yeah. It's funny when we're comparing notes to how I'm just experiencing being married again. And so I'm like, I like that.
Well,
But
that's great. Great. I'm real happy for you, pal.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy for me. Marielle's a wonderful lady. I mean, she's absolutely everything I ever hoped that a partner would be. So, yeah.
Well, you guys are coming to dinner with us Saturday night, right?
Oh, I hope so. The invitation is the invitation on its way.
You should get a formal invitation from Peggy.
Well,
by the way, you won't recognize Peggy. You know that girl has lost 60 pounds. She's gorgeous.
Wow, she was gorgeous before.
Oh, yeah, but she's even more gorgeous now. She looks like she's 25 now.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
Maybe 26, something like that.
She's gorgeouser. I love it.
She's gorgeouser.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to make Marielle drunk with your margaritas drink?
Oh.
Wait, I missed that.
She doesn't drink. She doesn't drink, but I'm sure it wouldn't take much. Cliff makes the meanest margaritas I've ever
make good margaritas.
Oh my gosh.
And the thing is, it's such an easy drink to make. It's so simple, but people muck it up with all sorts of dumb. It's only 3 ingredients. That's all. 3 ingredients. The original margarita. Tequila.
Yeah, but Cliff, it's the balance, and you do the perfect balance of each of those 3 ingredients. I think
it's
that's the art.
Yeah, that's why people do not know how to make it, because it is too easy. It's like pasta. It is too easy, but people messed up like big deal, right?
All the time.
It's got to be fresher. It's just tequila, fresh lime juice. I mean, like right now, not 3 hours from now, because the lime juice gets and agave syrup. So that's all it is. Nothing else. And people think that they buy a more expensive tequila, it's going to make a better drink. Wrong.
Really?
Wrong. Okay. It's you want the taste. Okay. You're mixing. Okay. You're not drinking this stuff straight.
Right.
You're drinking it straight. Okay. The more expensive tequilas are designed for that. But if you want a mixing tequila, what you want is all agave silver tequila. Like my favorite is 1800 silver, but the one at Costco, I don't know who makes it, but it's just as good, and it's a lot way cheaper. So,
wow. That's cool. That's so cool.
That's all it is.
I'll tell you something. When we had those drinks at your place, we have proof. We have hardcore proof that you make the best. I mean, we're going to share that with people a little later.
And I asked, my daughter used to work for the grill in Los Angeles, which is a real high-end restaurant where all the celebrities go.
Yeah.
And I said, it's so simple to make. Why don't restaurants make this? Why do they use this absolutely horrid mix and call it a drink? And she said, well, it's really simple, because if you got 20 customers out there wanting, one of these, how are you going to do this? Because you got to squeeze it fresh every time. And then there's a variance between the limes aren't always sweet enough sometimes, which was why there was a Mexican restaurant in New Mexico called Mama Maria's, and they make excellent margaritas. They use lemons instead of limes.
Oh, wow.
And the only reason is because lemons are naturally sweeter than limes. And unlike me, the bartender can't go tasting, every drink that goes out. So I'll taste it. If it needs a little more sweetness, I'll add some, blah, 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 that sort of thing,
Yeah. So, did you taste ours before you served us? I didn't even see you do that. Did you give it a little sample?
What I do is as soon as it's mixed up and everything with the ice, I pour just a little bit, like half a teaspoon.
And you do it. You taste it.
And I just taste it and see if it's sweet enough.
I missed that. I missed that.
But it's cool. The formula. Now, I don't have I think if I remember right, it's 2 ounces of silver tequila. 3/4 of an ounce of fresh squeezed lime juice.
Yeah.
And 1 tablespoon of agave syrup. You can't substitute sugar. You can't substitute.
I've heard that.
What's the stuff where you mix sugar and water? What's that stuff called?
Sugar water.
They heat it up. Yeah, the sugar water, whatever. No, it's got to be agave. Listen, this is a Mexican drink. All right, they've been perfecting this thing for 5,000 years or whatever. Don't mess with what works. New isn't always better.
Yeah. I agree with you, Cliff. If it works, don't fix it, right? Yeah.
Now, you see, after the show, there's going to be thousands of people that are going to go out there and start making these margaritas. Oh, yeah, I forgot. You shake it up with ice in a shaker.
No blender. No blender.
Pour
right?
it out. Okay.
No blender, right?
No blenders.
No blender. No, pour it out. And I personally like to even add a little bit more ice, but some people just will drink it without ice. The original recipe is without ice. Mm-hmm. But if you do that, it's a lot of alcohol. It's very short, and it's, you got
to be from Mexico to handle that, I think. Yeah. Hey, Cliff, there's a couple of people that they'd like to say hello to you. What do you think? You want to say hi to them?
Sure.
All right, let's get them on there.
Hi.
Kevin! Hey, Kevin.
Where are you, Clarice?
Kevin, you look just cooler than all get out. Man.
Look at him. Cool in the Great White North. I love it.
I've been thinking about Kevin for quite a while, because right now, as you know, we got a mess here in the U.S. This is a mess. And, I never get political, but right now things are not good. And I love Canada, and Kevin knows. He knows that.
Well, Cliff, we're okay, eh?
I can speak Canadian, eh? And because I just like you, man, I've been out and about.
Yeah, it's a long portage.
Kevin, where did you get that outfit?
My sister made it for me, actually.
How cool.
Are you in your new digs now?
I am. Christine?
Yeah.
Hello?
Good
so
for you.
So when you live together as a couple, you dress differently. You sort of your habits.
No, Christine's naked.
Change a little bit, yeah.
Christine's naked. Yeah.
Well, you can bring her on.
Cool. I wish I could be, because it is so hot here.
What?
I wish I could be as well, because it is so hot here in Brazil.
Can you imagine the temperature difference between Kevin and Maya?
You must have air conditioning in your apartment, though, right?
Oh my gosh, I do not have. Can you believe it?
Eric, no AC. Can't you get a window model? A little window.
Well, yes, I kind of can, but it is too noisy. So I just leave the windows open and a fan, and that's it. Wow. Yes. And no clothes.
I would think you just get a little, if it's a small apartment, just get a little window air conditioner. They're not that heavy.
But it is too noisy, though.
Well,
I don't like it.
That's true. But you can turn it on, and you can at least cool the place down, put it on really low, and you'll hear it a little bit. But then you can turn it off if you want. But
Or I just can drink margarita or caipirinha with lots of ice and get cooler, right?
Hey, that's another thing.
I'm turned on.
You can get one of those cooler things. Have you seen them? They're not very expensive. You put water in it.
It goes like this and blows.
Yeah, I don't know. You put water in it, and it's sort of like a pseudo air conditioner. It cools the place a little bit.
Yeah.
Kevin, what have you done to yourself? You look like my grandma right now.
I don't get out much.
That's funny.
But just before the show, I was like running around. I got stuff here. Look at this. Look.
Oh my god.
Look.
Oh my gosh.
Very good books.
I have Kevin. I have all of Kevin's books too, but I have to go back over.
Cliff,
there we go.
Tell the story.
That's an original.
Yes, but tell the story behind this.
Oh my gosh.
Originally. Yeah, originally I was telling my publisher had a great idea. He said, since it's secret,
Secrets.
let's put a brown wrapper on it. That was the old ICS guys.
That's the same book then, right? That Maya's got.
Yeah, only that's about 5 generations of improvement.
Kevin, is yours signed? Did you get an autographed copy like Maya did?
Yeah.
I do. I look. Actually, remember, Cliff? Actually, this is Christine's book.
Yeah, she got an autographed copy, right? Of course.
The cool thing is that one of my first autographed books from you is going back to when you spoke in Ottawa. When William Kruger was speaking, and you were the next speaker, and then we all went out to lunch, and that was a long time ago, Cliff.
It was fun though.
Oh, we had a good time. Remember this book?
Yeah.
Oh wow,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we sold about 65 copies of that before it went out of print.
The crazy thing is, though, look at I tagged this so many times. So this was my textbook in my class for 30 years.
Oh,
yeah.
Here, what we did was they screwed it up. They put a stupid cover on it. The cover's stupid. The name is stupid. So what we did was Clarissa. We did an audio book of this, but we changed the name of it. We called it Paddler's Guide, What to Do When Things Go Sour, which probably would have been a better name for it. But thanks, Kev. I appreciate it.
The whole thing is, if you don't know about this book and why I use it so much as a textbook, is that basically you give a scenario and then you say, what would you do? And what you did. And then, the whole class was like, my Lord. And
that's
then,
cool, though. That's cool.
Look at this sexy man right there.
That's cool.
Who wrote
I have that book as well. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's not mine. Who wrote that one?
It's not.
Huh?
I have that book. Who is that? I have that book too.
That's Mike Hodgson.
I have that book.
That's me on the cover.
Yeah.
I wonder how he got.
Did you get permission to have him use your picture?
No,
I smell lawsuit.
That one.
Oh my God, that's older than the Hills too. You want me to get? I should have got all yours out, Kev. I got everyone of his.
No, it's all your interview, man, not me. Or hold on, look.
You got this one, Kevin?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, I want your books. Do you bring it to Brazil? Do you ship it?
Hey, Kev, I have a present for Kevin too, but he won't get it until I'm gonna see him next week.
Oh my God!
We'll be at,
and then we got that.
Oh, you know what, Clarissa, my daughter. She just did she just did an audio book of that.
Oh, how cool!
Or she did the cooking one. That's right. She didn't do the.
That's so cool.
And she did. They did an audio book of that one. And Clarissa did a screenplay on that. The screenplay is amazing. So we're hoping that it will be a film, and we're very much hoping it'll be made in Canada. Because every Canadian film that I've seen about the outdoors, the wilderness, those guys get it right. I mean, they get it really right. If it's I'm not saying that American filmmakers, don't get it quite as right, but I'm telling you, the films about the wilderness that they're made in Canada are incredible.
Cliff, you are going to be deported.
Hey, okay. Do I get to go to Canada?
I love it.
Yes, I have all of those.
Yeah, but so here's how I always defined you and I. I'm Eric Morris and you're Sigurd Olson.
Huh.
Do you know that story?
No.
Oh, it's a great story. So Boundary Waters was formed, and Sigurd Olson, an amazing American writer, one of my favorite, right? And he wanted to expand that wilderness to protect wilderness when there was a lot of friction in the world at the time. And he organized a time where he would meet Eric Morris, which is our version of Sigurd Olson back in the day, on the Portage. And they met, and then they formed an alliance, and they actually created more wilderness, that being Quetico. So if it wasn't for them meeting on the Portage, shouldn't be doing that. Meeting on the portage. Sweet Jesus. Meeting on the portage. We protected so much wilderness together. That was amazing to do that. Like they're two amazing authors, Canadian and American, joining forces and creating wilderness protection. So now we have Boundary Waters and Quetico together. There we go.
That's cool.
The whole story of the protection of the boundary waters. I mean, it's just you just really got to hand it to the people who are willing to do that, and it's just terrible.
Oh, the energy they must have put forth to actually do all that too, right? The dedication, the volunteer work, the enthusiasm, the emotions, and everything else. Yeah, that was really kind of cool. And yeah, so every time I meet you and we talk together, I'm thinking, yeah, we're Eric Morrison and Sigurd Olson, man. Like, because we're both trying to protect both sides of the wilderness, right?
You know, Kevin and I are in a lot of ways wilderness soulmates. Even though we have never done a trip together, we have a lot of respect for one another. And you know, I wish, Kevin, what's the name of that book? My most favorite book you wrote. Hold that up, please.
Oh, I don't have it.
Oh, come on.
Another Bend in the River.
Oh, really?
Okay, another Bend in the River.
Okay.
Oh, but Clint, this is even more important. Hold on. I just finished a book. It'll be out soon. It's a children's book, and it's caused controversy because of you.
It's called what?
It's so I got a children's book here. I'll put it on my phone. So there's a children's book I just wrote. It'll be out soon. And it went to some people to look over, and it's about a young kid going on a canoe trip with his uncle, and he's not liking it because he's high anxiety, and then the critters help him out, and then he loves being out there. But I do some how-to and tips for tricks, and one was putting the tarp inside the tent, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is what you always told me, and I agree with. So I put that in the book, right? I put that in the book about that, and
That's
then the
that's
first
cool,
thing I got was, well, you don't put the tarp in the tent. And you know what I said? I go, yes, I do, because it's my book.
I love it.
That's great. You know, it's funny. There's been two battles
That's great.
that I have fought over the years with people. One is this business of the ground cloth inside the tent, and the other one is the bear thing. Okay. With this new regulation, you're putting your food in a tree and the boundary waters. I mean, this is such a joke. It's like, I mean, it's such a joke when you think about it, that they climb trees, you know, they're like squirrels. What are you talking about? And in the Smoky Mountains National Park, they make nests in trees, for crying out loud. Yeah, but so put your food in a tree. You know, so that's the stupid part. The other stupid part is the thing with the ground cloth. Oh, by the way, Kevin, we call it a ground cloth in American English. A tarp or something goes over your head. Okay, no, but anyway, the way this evolved, maybe it's time to tell the story. You know, I was a Boy Scout back in about late 1940s, early 50s. In those days, tents were all canvas. They were all A-frames with a pole, you know, on each end. And they did not have floors. Okay, some of them had what are called sod cloths, which was a flap that ran around the tent that was about maybe a foot wide. So in the summer, you put the flaps inside, and then you put your poncho, which was what we used for a ground cloth in those days because it was waterproof, right on top of that. In the winter, you put the flaps out and you piled snow on them, and they became snow flaps. Clever design. But the problem is because there's a little square or a rectangular opening, the rectangular tent could go like this. So putting it up required, like a good first-class scout, you'd put a stake here, a stake there, bang, bang. And if you knew what you're doing, you'd get it up perfect every time. But most people couldn't. Then they'd have to switch stakes around until they got the thing perfectly rectangular. Then some brilliant guy came along, or maybe it was a woman, could be, who said, you know what? We can solve this problem. We'll just put a floor in the tent. And so they did. Now, the original floors were canvas, just like the outer tent, which meant that when you when you went to sleep in there, if you got a lot of water, the water would even still go through the floors because it was canvas, and you got weight on it. Usually it would keep it up, but sometimes it wouldn't. So you always got into the habit of putting that ground sheet inside the tent. Then they came along with waterproof floors with seams all around. Okay, now you don't need one, right? Wrong. Because in every single case where I have, and I say every single case, where I have seen people in heavy rainstorms where they've gotten wet, it's because water's gotten into the tent. But if you have that ground cloth in the tent that wraps up the sidewalls all around, any water that gets in will be trapped between the plastic and the floor, and you'll stay dry. It works every single time, okay? There have been 2 times where I've had to pitch a tent literally in a swamp, where you would stand outside and water would go over your boots. How did that happen? Because I flew in to North Knife Lake in Manitoba. The plane set us down in the only place he could land, and it happened to be the edge of a swamp. And he said, I'll be back in 2 hours with the rest of the crew. Problem was, weather changed. All of a sudden, the lake stood on edge, and the plane didn't come back. We had to pitch the tents in the swamp. Wow. And I still remember putting that ground cloth in there, going in there with my knees. You'd see water well up inside the tent, but it was like sleeping in a waterbed, which it was. So, but there have been actually several times where this has saved the day. But this goes back to what we talked in the original part of this, when I was talking about your friend is a race car driver and says, don't hit your brakes in the middle of a curve. It's the same thing. Most people will never experience anything like that, because when the weather gets bad, they're going to get in their Volvos and they're going to drive home. It's as simple as that. Okay. But if you spend a lot of time in the wilderness, your tent will get flooded out. I don't care what you have, but it will. I'll bet you Kevin has plenty of examples of how water got in his tent and in the people he was guiding. But people won't buy it. They won't buy it because you know what? They don't go at twice the speed.
That's true. And that's exactly what you were saying at the beginning when we played that clip from Canoecopia a couple of years ago.
Right.
You know what I'm waiting for, Cliff?
What?
I'm waiting for somebody to pull an Eddie Van Halen on you. You know what that means? What does that mean? That means when Eddie Van Halen started doing the hammer-ons on the guitar, nobody was doing, but all of a sudden everybody was doing them, and it was like he didn't invent it anymore. Now all of us, we all came up with this. I'm waiting for somebody to steal that from you, the way everybody did with Eddie Van Halen's guitar technique. You know what I mean? Yeah.
You know, there's a review on Amazon on my book, Boundary Waters Canoe Camping. And, you know, most of the reviews are 5 stars. This one's a 1 star.
Ooh. And
it says, no, this is the newer version of that one. So it says, something to the effect of, I would have given this book 0 stars, but 1 is as low as it goes.
Ouch.
This guy is nuts. Okay. Because of that, and then I got so much heat on when the Boundary Waters put this idiot rule in, put food in a tree or put it in a bear-proof container. Like, yeah, you're going out for 10 days. You think you can carry enough food in one of these little bear-proof containers for 10 days? You can't. That's the first thing. Secondly, you're going to eat lousy.
Yeah.
And the third thing is, what's going to happen with that deal is the people are going to say, hey, I got a bear-proof container. And they're just going to stick it out by their tent and whatever. And you know what? A bear's going to come along. He's going to figure out how to get into this thing, just like they did in the Adirondacks, where they breached that popular Bear Vault 500. Mm-hmm. And then that bear's going to tell all of her friends. And pretty soon, all the bears will have it figured out. And you know what? If they can't figure it out, they're going to claw it, and they're going to bite it, and they're going to stomp on it, and they're going to have to destroy it. That's what's going, or they'll carry it off and try to figure it out. And if it's attached with a rope to a tree, they're going to bite through the rope. They are smart. You know what? I think they are smarter than a lot of the Boundary Waters people who travel there.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely smarter than the people who make the rules there. Remember the National Park Service?
I can say this. I used to be a forester, Kevin can relate. When I first started out, I worked in the big timber country of Western Oregon. It's a very dangerous place. In fact, if you want to see a movie that really hits it, that totally shows what it's like, there's an old movie called Sometimes a Great Notion with Paul Newman. Oh, wow. Sometimes a Great Notion with Paul Newman. It will show you exactly what it's like working in the big Douglas fir country of Western Oregon and Washington. Okay. So, that's what I did, in those days. But I got to tell you, in the early days, the Forest Service had a mission, which was timber production. That's it, guys. Timber production for the country. Then they came along and they changed that slightly to say, hey, we got to have a recreational component here. So you're going to have a campground now for recreational people. This is when it was just starting out. This would have been 1960.
Wow.
No, before that, 1962, right after I got out of college. So I remember we were making parking lots, and I still remember putting up the Forest Service posts, which had to be 5-sided. Why not 4? 4 is easy. 5's hard. 5 is the star. Okay? 5 is the U.S. star. So I remember with an axe, I had to make that 5 stars. All the posts had to be 5 sides. I'll never forget this.
Wow.
And we were kind of ticked off that now we got to have recreational people here. So the original thing with the Forest Service was we didn't want to do this. We just want to focus on timber production. And then ultimately this grew and grew and grew and grew until all of a sudden the Forest Service is now involved in recreation. The only difference being is that if you got a Forest Service campsite, it was pretty wild compared to the national park version, which would have, toilets and all sorts of stuff in it. So, I remember vividly those early days, and when literally Freedom of the Hills. I don't know how I got off on this rant. I'm sorry.
That's okay, man. That's okay. I'm speaking with your daughter here on text. So we're hoping she'll join us when she's a little tied up at the moment. But yeah. Hey, but you know what, Cliff? That's a great, and there's a piece of information, Kevin, Maya, you'll never hear probably anywhere else. About the 5-sided that he had to make. Yeah.
It was the post, the top of the post, when it comes to a thing like this, okay? The sharp part.
I think that's cool.
It had to be 5 sides, not 4 sides.
Yeah. A little anal.
I love that story. I love that story, Cliff. In one of your books, because you were a forest technician. You were a forester. I was a forest technician, but we did the same job that I still love today. I have this memory of just beauty when we did timber cruising. And we'd go through the woods. All we did is measure trees all day, but we're in the bush all day. And I love that job. I just loved it. I mean, yeah, this is good.
What did they have you measure for? I mean, what was the purpose of measuring the trees? Like growth?
Well, the good thing is, so I would spend a month and a half dropped off every day. I'd have a boil up, watch the wildlife, measure the diameter, DBH, diameter at breast height, which is probably not.
And you had an abney level.
Yeah. I don't think we were supposed to use the term diameter breast height anymore, but it was your breasts that we measured.
Wow.
And then you would do the height measurement. Even the old days when we did it with a stick, like we didn't have the
Biltmore stick.
Yeah.
Remember the Biltmore stick?
Where's my walker? So the great thing is, like we stopped during the day, and we'd always be by ourselves. And now I don't think you're really even allowed to be by yourself in the bush. But we were dropped off and then picked up, and we'd have a boil up. I'd watch the deer nibble on the trees that we're going to cut and stuff like that. And the whole idea is, how much money can you make from this forest? And that it's a job, right? So it was fine. And it's reality, right? But the cool thing is that we spent time in the bush, and you and I Cliff, I lived off this book growing up, right? Oh, sorry, upside down. But I went on so many.
Hey, by the way, you know whose picture that is on the front?
No.
That's Hap Wilson's.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, Hap let me use that.
Well, that's kind of cool.
And you know, the funny part about that picture is that was the same picture he used on one of his books.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Hap. I tell you.
Kevin, I got to tell you, he was talking about that timber cruising. Of course, we did what was called continuous forest inventory. Basically, it's same thing. And so I remember, and everybody's bigger than me. Everybody. Okay.
I'm glad you said it.
Me and Maya are about the same size. So, and I have these little short legs, and with the area of Goose Bay, Oregon, you step 3 feet off of the trail, and you are total lost. Total. In fact, I was lost out there for 3 days once, but that's a different story. But anyway, when I got, and so these guys would take off, and I'm trying to follow them. I'm trying, and I'd always show up. I'd get there and everything, but then I get my efficiency report. They give you this efficiency report. The efficiency report, I'll never forget what the guy said. He says, Cliff, he says, you're a pretty good man in the woods, but you got to learn to walk faster. Yeah, walk faster. So.
Oh my God!
I don't walk fast. I don't paddle fast. That's how it is with little short legs.
But it is so nice to hear you guys, because I am much younger, and when I started doing outdoor stuff, everything was ready already, like the equipment, the knowledge. So I have your book to read and to get to know before I go out there. So it is so nice to hear, because you guys pretty much built the history of outdoors. So it is so cool. It is undescribable being here and listen to stories.
Maya, I'll tell you a great story that actually Cliff would love about this for last summer. So I was on a trip in the Passway up near James Bay with my buddy Andy. He organized the trip. I didn't know where we were going. It was a disaster. It was absolutely. So we were supposed to go do 122 kilometers. We actually did 32 kilometers. There's forest fires. The portages that were there didn't exist. We had to cut our way through the bush, and we went 4 kilometers in 6 days. That's how far we progressed, right? And
Is this a canoe trip?
Yeah, it was a canoe trip. We had to cut our way through the bush.
What was the deal? Why were you going so slow? Was it fires? Did you say?
No, well, there was fires, but also the portages that were supposed to be there were not there, and we had to cut our own. But here's the thing: we had the technology to communicate with people, and everybody's like, "What's going on with them? Why are they not moving?" Because at one point we camped for 3 days on this one site because we had to cut this 600-meter portage. It took us 3 days. And so this is cool, Cliff. Love it. They're all concerned back in the town, and someone went up and said, "It's okay. Andy and Kevin have bush time. They're fine." Isn't that cool? Because that means that they're not going to die.
Right. They're okay. No, well, that's what we mean by going twice the speed.
Yeah. You're definitely an authority. I have a quick question here, or not question. I just want to mention this. Cliff, in this book, which, by the way, you autographed for me in 2014, and I'm going to ask Kevin, what edition was your book, Expedition Canoeing? Which edition was yours?
That's the first. I think that it's black and white in there, right? That's the first edition of.
That's the third edition.
Is it black and white or color?
Mine's black and white.
That's the latest. Kevin has a that's the first.
Okay,
that's before we changed the name. It's the same book as what Kevin has, only it's the one that Kevin has is it's newer, more up to date.
There was an edition where you added a bunch of people to it as well, didn't you? Like there was I think that was the 4th edition. You added people's.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, there's a lot of people involved. I think there's over 30 people who contributed to that book, and I would say, and I think it's probably about 70% Canadians that contribute to that book.
Whoa!
Kevin's in there.
I'm sure he is.
And here?
He is always with you.
I don't know if he's in that one, but he's certainly in the new one. In fact, his picture's in there too. You're in there. You have to look it up in the back and find it.
Oh, I just found it. The most sexiest Canadian right here.
Right. It's going to be so good to see you, Kevin.
Looking forward to it.
I have to tell you, you wrote something. Here's the dedication of this book, and I wanted to say this, bring this up. To my father, Henry Jacobson, who taught me to love and respect the wilderness.
Yep.
That's
my dad.
Not Nesmuk. Not Nesmuk. Is he a Nesmuk? Is that how you say his name? But your father. Your father.
I was very fortunate. I had incredible parents.
Yeah.
Really incredible. I mean, my dad was an outdoors guy. He was wonderful. He never made it to college, but he became a quality control engineer, and everybody thought he had a PhD. They called him Dr. Jacobson. It was funny. And my mother was very tiny. She was 4'10", and she weighed about 80 pounds. She was absolutely riveting gorgeous. She was drop dead gorgeous. She was an entertainer, singer, mistress of ceremonies at big clubs in Chicago. This was before I was born. But and my mom was just incredible. And I was the only child, so I got all the love.
What happened with your family? Because your parents, your daughters, how of you, your wife, how of you
my mom died when I was 12, and she died from, I think it was hepatitis. In those days, this would have been 1945. She, trusted the doctor, and maybe the doctor didn't know it, but she died of hepatitis. And then my dad remarried, and the woman he remarried, she was brilliant. I mean, this is no kidding. She had 2 PhDs.
Whoa. She
got her first PhD when I think she was like 19. Was who's who in American women. She was a bacteriologist, statistician.
Whoa.
She was not a nice person, and we had big clashes. And it's not, there was nothing I could do to please her, though I tried, because I was only like 14 when my dad remarried. And then sort of the coup de grace was, just to show you where it was. When I was in the Army, I was on the Army rifle team, and that was the year I was on the Army Gold team, which was the top rifle team that the Army had. And we won the national matches in 1964, okay? And so we were, at the time, we shot the M14 rifle that ranges out to 1,000 yards. So we cleaned the national match course, which is 600. We won the 1,000-yard Herrick. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because, and I'm not trying to do any bragging, but I just want to put it in perspective, because what I'm going to tell you what she said. So I came home with all these trophies and medals from winning the national matches, and she was learning how to shoot from taking some class from some guy. And she said, I should introduce you to my coach. He'll teach you how to shoot. Yeah, okay. He's going to teach me how to shoot at this point. So, but it was like, no, we didn't get along at all. My dad, this is interesting now, because here in the U.S., Donald Trump just cut USAID. My dad worked 2 or 3 years in Taiwan for USAID. And he was a quality control engineer, and he was showing those companies, how to do quality control to manufacture their products with fewer defects. Okay. And he said, they learned so much. They learned so fast. They were such a wonderful bunch of people. They so appreciated what we were doing. If my dad were alive today, he would be just completely incensed at cutting this USA thing. So, that's about it. That's what happened. And then so Sharon died in then I married my wife Sharon. We got married in 1966, and then we had 2 kids, Clarissa and Peggy, which turned out to be absolutely amazing women. I mean, I wouldn't trade either one of them for a million boys. Just to show you, so you dads out there who have daughters, you're lucky, because when Clarissa turned 40, she said to me, Daddy, aren't you glad you have girls? What 40-year-old boy would still give their daddy hugs and kisses? So there you have it. But my girls just take incredibly good care of me. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Was your dad proud of you?
Was my dad?
Yeah. Was your dad proud of you?
Well, I didn't have him. Yes, you know what? He was really proud of me when I got my master's degree. He was really proud of me when I graduated from college, and he was really proud of me about, being in the Army. I remember when I was a young second lieutenant, he had his bars, okay, and he had them, took them to, because he was working with these big companies, and he had them gold plated, pure gold.
Wow.
Just both of them were gold. So I wore my dad's bars when I went in. So yeah, that was an interesting time too, because when I was in the Army, we were really butting heads, with the East Germans. We were stationed right on the East German border, right on the line. And of course, we were always afraid that the East Germans are going to come across the wall. We picked up, there's so many interesting stories about that wall. One was, I could talk about this all night, but one I still remember this one. This guy, East German guy, wanted to get to West Germany. So he figured this out. It was Checkpoint Charlie. And at the time, what they had, when you went through Checkpoint Charlie at the time, it was, okay, they had a thing to slow you down, curves. And then in the front, they had this big steel bar that went across. So, and it was a big honker. So any car that went in there would be stopped. I don't think you could break the bar off. Or if you could break the bar off, they'd probably shoot you as soon as you got beyond the bar. So what this guy did, he had an MG Midget. I don't know how many of you remember that car. It's a little tiny British car. He took the windshield off. He put his girlfriend in the trunk, and he put his mother-in-law on the right seat. And these little sports cars, they weren't very fast, but you could go around like this, So he went, and he went right underneath that bar into West Germany and freedom. I remember that story. So,
wow.
So that was a very, very interesting time.
Cliff, I'm going to ask you this, and I don't know if anybody has ever asked you this, so I'm going to kind of ask you some different kind of sort of questions. When did you start giving lectures? When did you start speaking publicly?
Well, my first publisher was ICS Books, which is a tiny little company in Indiana. And there were 2 guys involved, Dr. Bill Forgy, who is the author of Wilderness Medicine, a very popular, wonderful outdoor medicine book, and Tom Todd, who Doc sort of took under his wing as sort of his son. And at the time, Tom was 17 years old. And I had written this first book, which was Wilderness Canoeing and Camping for E.P. Dutton Company. And then I decided I wanted to write another book. I decided I wanted to call it Canoeing the Wild Rivers of the Far North. And this would have been 1978 around 1980, something like that. And so they decided to publish it. Well, Tom was there was only 2 people in the company, Doc and Tom. Tom was only 17 at the time. Okay. So he had to figure all this out. He had to find a printer and so forth and so on. And they didn't have much money. So the first edition of the book, if you have a first edition, people have been asking a lot of money for it. The first edition of Canoeing Wild Rivers has a color well in the front. There's 4 pages of color in there. It was too expensive to put the color in individual pages. But the problem is, well, it turned out not to be a problem, but it was a nightmare for us because I counted personally going through the book the first time, 140 some, it was 142, 144 errors, which ranged from misspelled words to sentences with words cut off to a repeated sentence or whatever. So what happened was they got this printer who was an alcoholic. And so they would send the copy to him. Okay. And this was, this was now electronic printing now. It was no more of this, you do the type thing and the type faces drop. Remember those days? Well, if you look at those old books, you'll notice they are 100% error free. There's no errors in them. You look at the new books, they're filled with errors. Why? Because time is money and it's electronic. So this guy like have a few drinks and he sits on and he runs it through, sends it back to ICS Books. They send it back. He has to correct the errors, and when he corrects them, he makes some more. And this went on through like 4 times. Finally, the 4th time, we were out of time. Book had to go to press, so they sent it to press with all these errors in it.
Oh wow!
So that's why today, these modern books, you're going to find errors in them all the time, because the attitude of the publisher is, but time is money. All right. If there's a few errors in the book, it's not going to affect the sales of the book, and people will just gloss over. Or they'll write something like, hey, I read your book, John, and there's an error on page 34. It's IT apostrophe S, not ITS. Please note that for when you in the next publication. Okay, John.
Wow. That's it.
Right, Kevin?
You got any of that, Kevin?
Yes, I just received my latest one of those. I'm not sure if I should talk too much about it, whatever, but there was someone living in the far north that had a problem with all winter camping books, and mine included. And he typewrited a response of what should be corrected, and it was actually this thick.
Wow.
And he spent 2.5 pages to say that, and he was right. Actually, he was right. Not all the time he was right, but instead of saying example, e.g., I said a.e.
What means
in other words, right?
Yeah. So in a sense, he was right. But I'm thinking, wow, you got a lot of time in your hands, man. Write that out. And
right.
And then I wanted to respond. And, sorry, Cliff, I'm going off in tangent with this. I don't get out much, but it's like, and where is your goddamn book?
Right.
Good point. I was waiting for your answer because I was sure it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Because you talk, you speak what we think, and we wish we could speak out loud, but you don't care. You just speak, and I love that so much.
Absolutely.
I love that. I was missing a laugh with your stories.
Well, first of all, you got to realize I was a teacher for 34 years. Okay? So you stand in front of a classroom, it's fine. The other thing, when ICS Books started, they didn't have a lot of money, but they liked what I was writing. So they said, we're going to promote Cliff. So they sent me all over the country to talk, and they to talk. I talked to REI, Eastern Mountain Sports. I mean, the whole raft of these places. I talked to them, and that's really just how the thing grew. Publishers don't do much of that anymore. Kevin still gets support. I don't know any U.S. publishers who, first of all, you got to realize that the kind of stuff that Kevin and I write is very esoteric compared to other things. I mean, it's like, okay, who goes camping and canoeing anymore? In the States, the boundary waters is the big wilderness, okay? And in Ontario, I think it's still largely pretty much the same thing. Most people won't go off the beaten path. They're going to go to parks or parks and ponds and things like that, but they're not going to take a canoe trip down a wild Ontario river unless they know what they're doing. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to die, or you could die. Okay. So this 99% of the people who buy these kind of books are people who they wish they could do those broader trips, and they know maybe they can't for a lot of reasons. They don't have time, they don't have money, but they're hopeful of getting the skills to eventually do that. And maybe they never will. But in the meantime, it really doesn't matter, because if they embrace these skills that work in the deep wilderness, their trips in their parks or boundary waters or Quetico or Sylvania or whatever are just going to be more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't have a real big audience. So it's like, you know what this reminds me of? There was a guy on TV once, two of them. One was Stephen King, which of course everybody knows who he is. And the opposite of this guy was a guy who had written a book about pottery. And it was a thick book. And the book that he had written about pottery was considered to be like the top book in the world for determining the numbers, whatever different kinds of dishes and things you buy, what they're worth, and so on. His was the top book in the world. So they were comparing that he had this big pottery book out for 20 years and kept improving it every year. And Stephen King would write a novel and bingo, $1 million, $2 million or whatever. And they asked the pottery guy, they said, how much work you put into this pottery book? Does this bother you that, Stephen here, he knocks a book out in 6 months or whatever, and it becomes a multi-million-dollar book? And the guy said, no, he says, it would be nice, if this book could have sold more. He says, but I've done the best I can, and I know it's the best book out there, and I'm happy with that. And that's kind of where Kevin and I are, I think.
Cliff, it's funny because you are a lot of people's hero. And I'm sure your former students still refer to you as Mr. Jacobson instead of Cliff. But who is your rock star? Who is if somebody you'd say, oh my gosh, I
have several. Cal Russell, he certainly, but there are others too. Bill Mason. I like Bill Mason a lot. We converted back and forth.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Song of the Paddle. There's an interesting blurb in the back of Song of the Paddle.
What is funny? It was not planned.
It wasn't half. I think it's in the back of Song of the Paddle.
What
See
was
if
that, Maya?
you can find it, Kevin, because it's very funny. It's in the very back. He's talking about people. And
I have those DVDs actually.
About Cliff Jacobson in there.
Yeah.
I am amazed because it was not planned, but Kevin has all the books you are talking about, and it is on his head already, like right away. You say the name, and then he
came
goes
prepared,
like,
man.
Yeah, I am very impressed. You guys studied
You
lots
hear it?
and did
Oh my God!
Hey, I want to ask Maya a quick question. Maya, can you read English as well as speak it?
Yes, I can. I did read your book.
Yeah, and she reads these things that I put together for her every week. So yeah.
Read that comment about Bill Mason. What Bill Mason said.
You're in the book.
Yeah. He's talking about
one of the best on expedition canoeing. Jacobson has drawn on the experiences and knowledge of many well-traveled canoeists. I was amazed at how often we came to the same conclusion on so many aspects of canoeing and living outdoors. He's out to lunch, though, on tents.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what Bill wrote about. Wow. And, and the funny part of it is really, we weren't that different because Bill, he liked one big open, it's big baker tents, what it is. That's what he liked. Big canvas baker tent where he could sit under there, make a fire under there in the rain and so forth. Was very nice. I grew up with stuff like that, and the answer is no, not for me, because first of all, those things are heavy and bulky. We have better technology now. So I preferred, and like when we were on the Hood River, the first trip on the Hood River, I had a wind gauge. We were stuck for 3 days with measured winds of 62 miles an hour. 62. Now, a tent like that is not going to hold at 62 miles an hour. But our Cannondale Rustics did. So what I have instead is a big, huge, giant tarp. Yeah, with bug netting all around. And I put that up and everybody gets inside of that. So essentially, Bill and I really were soulmates. But I want a total weatherproof tent that won't blow down and a big tarp that we can be under. Because there have been times when that big tarp, no matter how I rigged it, when you start getting winds above about 35, 40 miles an hour, no matter how you rig a tarp, it's coming down, okay? Unless you've got to get that airplane wing effect out of it so that everything is totally just blowing over that tarp. But if you have side panel like bug net, it's not going to work with super high winds, so you have to either lower the structure or put something around it. Whereas with a high altitude tent, which is basically what you need in the Arctic, you got to have a tent that's going to take 50, 60 mile an hour winds. You just do, because it can happen.
Cliff, what was your?
This is a great thing. This is a great thing about Cliff and I. Is that I remember it was years ago. I went up to Darren Bush, the owner of Canoecopia, whatever, and I said, "Hey, I got an idea for next year. Cliff and I are going to be on stage, and we're going to debate about things, and we're going to wear boxing."
We did that. That was so fun.
We were boxing. It was great. And he said, Cliff will never agree to that. I went, what do you mean? It was his idea.
You remember that guy some guy gave us a boxing outfit or something?
Yeah, that was perfect. And also, I remember we went on stage, and I remember the moment. It was a classic American Canadian moment. I loved it. I said, okay, we're going to debate. I'm Canadian. I'm sorry. I am wrong. Cliff, off to you.
Cliff, what was your most memorable presentation? Like, what's the craziest thing maybe somebody asked you, or what do you remember the most?
Well, my most memorable presentation is going to be the one I'm doing at Quiet Waters Symposium in about a week and a half, and at Canoecopia. It's called My Last Picture Show, Remembering a Lifetime of Canoeing Wild Rivers. And it starts with, it shows pictures of me when I was just a little baby, all the way to when I got married, the kids, the trips, the most memorable trips, some of the crazy things that happened on trips. That'll be my most memorable one. Otherwise, my favorite, if you're asking me what my favorite ones are, my favorite's probably Canoeing Wild Rivers, because I get to tell about all the wonderful trips that I did. That's probably my most favorable, followed by Camping Stop Secrets. And I really like that one because it gives people a lot of hands-on tips that they can use right now. That shows them how to go twice the speed and do well. So those are probably my favorites.
And you have been traveling around for so many years, but can you name or say your most memorable trip?
Well, of course. My most memorable trip was the wedding trip on the Hood River. That's the most, that's the most memorable trip. That was the trip where our marriage commissioner, that was cool. We had probably the least expensive wedding in history. We got one of the guys on the trip certified as a marriage commissioner when we were in Yellowknife, which was the capital of Northwest Territories. That cost $20. So he had 30 days to marry us. And so on that particular trip, there's some pretty wild things happened. First of all, Susie had a pack. It was white. And it was filled with her wedding dress and a ermine trimmed sort of I don't know what you call the thing. It's like a thing you wear around here. Okay. That and I had some special clothes in there and so forth and so on for the wedding, and it got left behind on the airplane loading dock, the float plane loading dock, Airtindi in Yellowknife. And as soon as we got off the plane, we knew it. It just wasn't there. And that's when Susie said, I'm not getting married. I'm not getting married without my dress. I'm not.
Did you panic at that moment, Cliff?
It was getting panicky because then the guys started getting real funny. Like the one guy said, don't worry, Susie. We can make you a dress out of white poly bags. And then another guy said, and yeah, you can use my head net for a veil.
Oh boy.
Okay. Stuff like that. So, but it wasn't funny because she was emphatic. She's not getting married. And the story's in Canoeing Wild River, so it's a long story. But anyway, I had an old time.
That's so cool.
You know, I had some old time friends, the Peak brothers, Michael Peak.
There you go.
And yeah, Michael and I have crossed many times. And Michael's, who was on a trip with his brothers, I can't remember which river they were doing, and he saw that wedding pack on Airtindi's dock there, and he said, you know, that's the wedding pack. Cliff's getting married on the hood. You guys are flying. They were flying, I think, to Cambridge Bay. He said, you're going to go almost right over the hood, I think. He says, can you divert a little bit and drop this pack? Okay. So we're sitting there. It's pretty gloomy. It's the first night, and I'm making food for the crew, 10 people. And all of a sudden, I hear this classic whir of a twin otter. I look up, there's a twin otter up there. I grab the handheld radio. I've got an aircraft VHF radio, and I go, I said, twin otter, no, I said, Airtindi twin otter, or Airtindi twin otter. This is the Cliff Jacobson party, over. And then all of a sudden I hear, yeah, we got your wedding pack. And then he flies around, and he's getting lower and lower and lower. And he looks like to me he's 100 feet off the ground.
Wow.
And then they kick something out of the door. It's the wedding pack. Bang! And it hits the ground, and the wedding is back on again. And then what Susie did then, she has what she calls fruit tape, which is this pink plastic surveying tape that foresters use to mark stuff, you know. So she ties that all over the pack. So there's fruit tape all over the pack. So, by the way, that pack is hanging in the Duluth Pack Company in Duluth. It's faded and everything, but it's hanging there. Yeah. It's still there.
I was going to mention that because Maya and I both saw that pack when we were there.
After the trip, so cool. I said, I want to know who the pilots were who flew that airplane. And they told me, so I called them on the phone. I said, you guys got anything going on tonight? They said, no. I said, okay, I'm taking you and your co-pilot, I'm taking you out to the best place in Yellowknife for dinner. Eat all you want, drink all you want. It's on me. So that was a really good fun time. There's a lot of things that happened on that trip. The wedding committee, the guy, another story too. I'll just tell you one more. That's it. They can read the whole story in the book, but this one is classic Susie. So we are camped right below a major falls. It's gorgeous, all right? But we were actually camped about, I'd say, 40 yards back. Our marriage commissioner and his brother are fishing right below the falls. They have their canoe in right below the falls, and they're catching a lot of fish there. Now, this is the tundra. There's no trees, you understand. So all of a sudden, one of the guys that's cooking with me, his brother, the guy's brother, marriage commissioner's brother, he looks over across the tundra. He says, Cliff, there's a bear coming in. You better get your gun. I said, okay. So I grabbed my rifle, which at that time was a 444 Marlin with peep sights. And in comes this grizzly. And he's coming in. He's sort of loping across this, the side of this hill. And at this point, he's probably about 1/8 of a mile away. So he's coming closer and closer and closer and closer to where these guys are fishing. Obviously, this must have been his favorite fishing spot, and he doesn't like that. So as he's coming in, I'm standing there with a rifle. First of all, I'm 40 yards away. Secondly, it's a 444 Marlin. Anybody who knows anything about these guns knows, okay, you know, if I had to shoot a grizzly, I'm sure not going to shoot him 40 or 50 yards away with a 444 because you want a one-shot kill. Secondly, if I do that, I'm going to be in Canada. I'd probably still be in Canada filling out paperwork. Okay. So anyway, what happens is this bear comes in. As this bear is running in, go back in time. When Susie discovered we were going to get a wedding commissioner, she says, you know, she's been single till she was 45. So she says, I think we should get a second marriage commissioner in case something happens to the first one. I said, what are you talking about? Well, he could drown or he could get killed by a grizzly bear or Susie, come on. So in this bear is coming and Susie stands up and she shrieks, I told you we should have got another marriage commissioner. I told you we should have got another marriage commissioner. So what happens, this bear comes in and when he sees the canoe, he's maybe 20 yards from the canoe or closer to maybe 10, 15 yards. And he puts on the brakes. It's just like in a Disney movie. Ah! And he goes, sniff, 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 sniff. And then he turns around and bang, he's out of there just like that. I mean, that was hilarious. But yeah, that was the hood was amazing because you know, we saw well, on the first hood trip, we saw tens of thousands of caribou. The second hood trip, we saw a lot of caribou, tens of thousands. Swimming in the water, going by our canoe, stroke their back with your, you can stroke their back with your paddle. Muskox, we saw over 500 muskox on that trip. I mean, that was...
You know, talking about your equipments, CW and I have been in your basement, and I know you have lots of equipments, but... You know, was there even a piece of equipment you always wanted, but you never purchased?
In other words, you're saying, is there anything I wish I had done?
No, equipment.
No,
she said,
equipment. Yeah.
Is there a piece of equipment that you wanted, but never?
Oh, well, yes. Actually, first of all, I really wanted at the time, I wanted a Peterborough wood canvas canoe. But I couldn't afford one. And I always wanted a wood canvas canoe. And then when I could finally afford one, I couldn't carry it. So,
oh wow!
But to this day, there's something magical about wooden boats. I don't know how to describe it. I built a number of wood strip canoes. And they're different than composite boats. They're quieter, they're smoother, they're more rigid, they're more beautiful, they're magical. And ribbed canvas canoes are even more magical. One of my very best friends in the world, Jim Mandel, has a Morris canoe, a completely refurbished by Tom McKenzie. Those of you who know Tom McKenzie, freestyle instructor, the most magical guy in making and repairing wood canvas canoes. Tom took that old Morris and completely restored it to absolute new, including gold flake or gold. Well, the original Morris had gold accents and things on the outside. It had gold leaf. And my friend Jim Mandel owns that boat. I paddle that canoe, and it's too heavy to carry. I couldn't do it. But when it goes through the water, it's magic. So yeah, that's probably the one piece of equipment that I always wanted, kind of lusted after, but never got. But then I also lusted after a 911 Porsche.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Hey, Cliff, what's been the biggest regret of your career?
You know, that was a question you had on your thing, and I thought about that.
Yeah.
And I don't have any regrets.
None.
I can't.
Wow.
I can't really think
that's
of it.
Beautiful.
I can't I mean,
I'm so jealous.
Well, no, I mean, I could say I regret, doing a certain canoe trip on a certain river or whatever, but it doesn't matter. I've done so many of them.
Yeah.
I've seen my muskox, my caribou, my polar bears, my grizzly bears, seals, whales, otters, wolverines. I mean, the list goes on. Okay.
But are there any woulda, shoulda, couldas?
I'd love to go back and see them, but it's okay if I don't.
Yeah.
Because I've been there, done that.
There are no woulda, shoulda, couldas.
Yeah, and I mean, when I was in the Army, I spent 2 years in Germany. I could pretty much traveled around a lot of Europe, saw a lot of Europe.
Yeah.
One guy says Bluefin Adventure, wooden canoes are beautiful. I'm sad 8 years ago. I sold my canvas-covered cedar canoe. It was heavy but beautiful. Exactly, Bluefin. Right on. So no, I don't really think I have any regrets. I think for 84, I'm pretty lucky in that I can still paddle. Like I said, I have some arthritis in here, and I have some a tendonitis, a bad tendonitis in here. But I can still make a fist. I can still hold a paddle. I can't lift heavy stuff with this, but we may get this fixed yet. But I have enough other hobbies to keep me busy. I have that very old 1996 BMW Z3 Roadsters, little 4-cylinder. It's bright red. It's mint. When I say mint, it's actually better than mint because we redid the plastic interior with all wood grain. It's a 5-speed manual. I've got 140,000 miles on it. I've driven it everywhere. I've driven it to Nova Scotia. Yeah, we did take the ferry, of course. Okay, I've driven it to Nova Scotia. I've driven it all around Nova Scotia, driven it out to Los Angeles, see my daughters probably 15 times. So I love driving that with the top down. And, of course, I still like to shoot. I like to shoot powder cartridge guns, rifles, and powder cartridge pistols. And I've gotten pretty good now with handguns. And I was once kicked off the handgun range when I was in the Army, but now then I can tell you that's a funny story.
That sounds like a good story. Let's hear that.
Okay, the pistol team traveled with the rifle team. Okay, we traveled together, so we were all good friends. Now these guys with a pistol, there's a Tune 1911 45 Colt. They put a water bucket out at 100 yards. 100 yards, one hand, bang, 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 and they bounce the water bucket around at 100 yards with a 45. That's how good they were. And of course, so one day, we got into this argument about which was harder to shoot, rifles or pistols. So they said, let's have a contest. You shoot our guns, we'll shoot your guns. We said, okay. So they went out on the rifle range, and we had them shooting at 600 yards. They couldn't even keep it on the frame at 600 yards. And then they had us shooting pistols. And I remember I'm shooting the pistol out there. Bang, bang, bang. And about the sixth shot, the range sergeant comes over and he says, excuse me, sir. He says, but I'm going to have to ask you to stop shooting. I said, what's the matter, Sarge? And he says, Lieutenant, he says, you're supposed to hit the target. You're shooting up my backgrounds. I said, darn, sorry, Sarge. Okay, I'll stop. So then when all was done with this, it turned out the rifle shooters couldn't hit squat with a pistol, and the pistol shooters couldn't hit squat with the rifle. So it's really different kind of sport, So, but I do that, but mostly now I shoot high-end air rifles in my backyard. Air rifles are a lot of fun. They're incredibly accurate. They're total quiet. Kevin,
I have to tell you, when we were down in his basement, he has everything you could ask for as far as reloading ammunition. I mean, everything. It's like a science lab, man.
I was into that for a while.
In Canada, we just have a bunch of hockey sticks.
Yeah. But no, I don't. I really don't have any regrets in my life. There are times I regretted. Actually, there are a lot of times I regretted teaching because it didn't pay the bills, and Sharon and I mean, sometimes we would run out of money for food a day or two before I got my check. It was total paycheck to paycheck. Wow. And I had friends, all my friends basically were non-teachers, and they were a lot more successful than I was in terms of money. But I do have to say, I've been out of this since what year was it? 1990, no, since 2001. That would be 24 years. And there has not been a single year when I haven't gotten an email or a text or a call from one of my former students. Or on my Facebook page, they'll write in. And I fought so hard I developed a course called Environmental Science, which was the real deal. I mean, we tested water for pollution. We did forest and wildlife management, the same thing that Kevin did with the forestry, that did timber cruises, did all sorts of stuff like that with wildlife management. So kids remember this to this day, and they love this class. But I got so much grief from colleagues, and the grief was, you realize you're taking this is a whole year program. You know, you got too much time. I can't teach the last chapter in the electricity book or whatever it is, you know, but they did not appreciate environmental science. They thought what they wanted to teach was, they wanted to teach second part of astronomy, or they wanted to teach more physical science. Kids hated that stuff. And that's one of the reasons why kids hate school, because we keep shoving down their throat too much stuff that A, they can't identify with, B, they don't need right now, so they're going to lose it, which is why they lose it in 90 days generally, okay? And C, if you don't do it or keep doing it, you'll lose it. So why teach all this garbage that's going to go in one end and out the other? Why not teach things that they need for now? You teach them how to read well, how to write well, how to process, deal with problems and mathematics. Then if they need to learn something, they can learn it. But don't plug everything into 8th, 7th or 8th or 9th grade and be proud of yourself because my kids just learned college chemistry. Well, guess what? They don't need it. They don't need it. They'd be better off learning some social skills. And then when they go to college, then they can learn college chemistry.
I got to tell you something, Cliff. I wish that you would have been one of my teachers.
Yes, right?
Big time. Big time. I would still be sending you Christmas cards. Well, I still do send you Christmas cards. But
well, I love my students.
Yeah.
And you know what I feel like? Every day we lost more about environment stuff and we care less, and it is as important or more important than mathematics, for example, because we need keep the nature, we need to keep the waters clean just in order to survive. So it doesn't matter if you know like those really crazy stuff, but if you don't have where to live or what to eat, or you don't have what to drink because the water is polluted, right? So it is really important, and we have the need, like globally, to make the kids understand more what you were talking about, and be more in those environments, be out there.
But you see, what you're forgetting is this. What the public forgets is this. If it's not on the test, we don't want to teach it. And these testing companies have huge amounts of money. Okay? And when I was teaching, which is a long time ago, but I remember my budget, my science budget was $1.50 a student at the time. So if you have 150 students, you have $225. Is that right math? 150? Well, all right. So it was a couple of $100 I had to buy stuff. Well, you can't buy a lot for $250 or $300 other than test tubes. Okay, so you can't do much. But the other thing is, if it's not on the test, it's gone. Now, I'll give you a case in point, because I got to talk about this for hours, but I call this the bean sprout question. Okay? We had on our tests, state tests, they had a number of questions about how bean sprouts grow. How do they grow in different colors of light? Okay? Well, guess what? My kids had environmental science. We didn't study bean sprouts. So they bombed the entire bean sprout section of questions. So what happened next was the curriculum director came over and he said, "You're going to have to teach bean sprouts next year, Jacobson." I said, "No, I'm not teaching bean sprouts." "Well, you're going to have to do it because our school doesn't measure up." So then we had parents' night. And I told them, I said, "Parents, curriculum director has told me we got to teach about bean sprouts next year. Now, if we do that so we can do well on the test, we're not going to teach these other things that your kids have come home to you and told you about. Can I have a view of hands here? How many of you would support me in not teaching bean sprouts?" Every hand went up. So you know what? Wow. When the curriculum director came back, I said, "Sorry, no bean sprouts, man."
That's cool.
So, the thing is, you can get parent support. Teachers can get parent support if they'll go for it, but most of them are too timid, okay? Because they're like a huge number of people in this country right now, in my country right now, that know that what's going on is wrong, but they won't say a word about it. They'll keep their mouth shut until we lose our democracy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get political, but that's where we are, because most people don't have any guts, courage.
Well spoken. Well spoken. Maya's got a question for you.
Thank you.
I love it. No, that's beautiful.
Now, there was a little note that came across.
No, you know what? It's beautiful when somebody stands up for what they believe in, and I support that whole. Yeah.
But I have so many questions, but I do not have the time. And I know something that you haven't done. You have never been in the country with the most rivers in the world, and it is Brazil. Brazil has, and you guys have never been here in Brazil to canoe.
I would say I would not be at home on those rivers. I would have to have somebody along who was, because you got some pretty mean critters living in those rivers, okay? And you just can't camp along the shoreline,
What's going on, Kevin?
What's Mr. Allen doing here? What's going on?
What's going on?
Oh, no. So, no, I've always thought, the rivers that you have there are phenomenal, and they're sort of explored halfway, but they're probably as wild as anything maybe the wildest stuff left on the planet.
Well, we do not have bears.
Cliff, we're going. We're going.
Bears.
Please come. I will be more than happy to make this trip happen for you.
Cliff and I will actually paddle naked in Brazil, no problem whatsoever.
So cool. But
bring
you
the
are
film
not going
crew.
to the flies if you are naked. Like, don't be naked here.
Yeah, but don't you have alligators and crocodiles? What do you? Yeah,
we do.
And you have piranhas in the rivers.
Oh, sometimes.
Yeah, so you can die pretty easy on a Brazilian river if you don't know what you're doing.
But you have, like the easy ones, the ones I go is like, it is easier. It's not like the Amazon River with crocodiles. It's easier. We can talk about that.
The Amazon.
Plan this trip, Kevin.
When I was a kid, I wanted to do the Amazon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
Cool.
But
I
don't. That might be your regret. I don't know if Teddy Roosevelt could do the Amazon. I guess I could do, but he almost died.
Yeah.
Well, what if we wear a loincloth?
Then you're
that would be good, because it would provide a bit more surface area for the bugs to bite you.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. And no target area for bad things that could happen.
Yeah.
You know what? Is there? Okay. and I don't mean to steal this from you, Maya, because I know you're ready to ask me this question. But is there a bucket list that of, let's just say was there ever a river other than the Amazon that you didn't get to paddle, you really wanted to, just didn't get it done?
I would say no, there isn't, because the ones I've done in Canada, I mean, it doesn't get. Personally, I don't think it gets better than the Hood. I mean, even Bill Mason. Bill Mason. He was a big fan of. I'm trying to remember what was his big fan of river. I can't remember the river now that he loved so much and he recommended all the time. And then there's a blurb in his book, something to the effect of, now I'm converted. Oh, it was the Nahanni, the South Nahanni. He loved the South Nahanni. And then he did the Hood. And the Hood topped it. I've had friends who've done the South Nahanni. I have not really had a desire to do it. I'll tell you why. Okay, well, first of all, you could say South Nahanni is like considered the Everest of Canadian rivers, sort of. But it's huge. It's canyons with huge, great big rapids in it. Okay, it goes through a provincial park. A lot of people do it. Okay, you may not run into other people, but it's not what you call one of the lesser traveled big name rivers. And to me, people change everything. Let me give you an example. Okay, I've been to Wilberforce Falls on the Hood River twice. This falls drops roughly 160 feet through a 3-mile canyon. By comparison, the U.S. Niagara, which is a bit more of a drop than on the Canadian side, drops 167. So the Wilberforce is about 7 feet, 10 feet lower than Niagara. So it's pretty spectacular, right? No people. Then we have Niagara Falls in New York. I've been there several times. I've taken the Maid of the Mist out there. It bores the hell out of me. Yeah, it's beautiful. If you can consider it beautiful, I can't. Not with all these gross people hanging around everywhere. And to me, it's the same thing as going to a national park overrun with people and seeing some beautiful thing. To me, it's not beautiful. It's like, get me out of here. Okay, Wilberforce was gorgeous. In fact, probably my second major favorite falls is Manitou Falls on the Fond du Lac River. Now, Manitou Falls doesn't drop very much, though it is likely if you go over it, you might just get killed. But then again, you might survive. I don't know. It's one of those. You go over Wilberforce, bye-bye, okay? But it's beautiful, and there's no people. So to me, no people counts every bit as much as the beauty. And getting there counts too. In other words, when we did there several times that the twice I've done the Hood River, what they're doing now, one of the lodges not too far away will fly people in by helicopter, or I think they can get a float plane into one of the little, there's a tundra lake they can drop into, and people can walk over and they can see Wilberforce Falls. Whoopie-doo, then they get back in the plane and fly to the lodge. That would bore the hell out of me. You know, it's too easy. If you don't sacrifice to get there, it's not worth it. And you know what? This is kind of a life lesson. If you don't sacrifice to get where you are, to work hard to get where you are, then you really don't appreciate it. Yeah. And by the same token, you probably don't have a lot of compassion, as all you have to do is look at some of the people in my country right now who are making laws about things that they've never done. They don't know anything about it. They don't know what these park people do. They don't know what these Forest Service people do. They don't know how hard they work, and they don't know how much it benefits the people who visit those places. They don't get up in the morning and worry about Where's my food from tomorrow coming from? They say, oh, yeah, I feel so bad for them. You can't feel bad for them. You don't know what it's like. When I first started teaching, I remember it was a Friday. Didn't get paid till Monday. We were totally out of food in the house. Between us, Sharon and I scrounged up $2. We went to the local grocery store. It was $1.79 for, I think, 6 pork chops at the time.
Wow.
We bought the pork chops. We had pork chops till Monday. I remember those days. You know, I hate to go into a rant, but I'll tell you, there are some people who are really wealthy that I respect. But the one who's at the top of my list is Oprah Winfrey. Why? Because she grew up poor, really poor, and she became one of the richest women in the world. But you know what? She never forgot her roots. She never forgot how to treat people kindly and with respect. She's a wonderful person. I have great respect for her. But you know, and there's a lot of very wealthy people who do remember their roots. But if you don't have roots and you just take the grown plant and you put it in a new environment, it's not going to flourish well. How did I get off on that?
Look who is here.
Hey, man, you're a passionate person, Cliff, and we love you for that. And yes.
Hey, look who's on. Look who's on.
Look at another
Clarissa.
rock star. I love it. Can she hear us?
Wow. She got a haircut. She looks cute. Yeah, wow. Yeah, so that's...
Can we see her? Yeah?
I can see her. You see Clarissa down there on the left? Is she
texting.
on? Oh, maybe she
cannot hear us, I think.
Oh, she can't hear us, huh? I wonder if she can see us.
It's funny. I'm texting her as we.
Oh, she might still be working on it. But
all right, hold on.
Yeah.
Check your settings at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to help you along here.
Oh, okay. Well,
she's reading it. I love it. It's funny that we can do this and
Oh, okay. Well, anyway,
we're gonna get her on. Hey, Maya's gonna bust in here with a little announcement, Cliff, and you're gonna enjoy this. Ready?
Sure.
And we're gonna work on Clarissa while you're doing your thing.
Okay.
Yeah, my favorite part. We are going to show your pictures. The pictures we have here. So.
Oh, okay. I'll go back to the very first one.
What's going on?
Okay, this is this is the 1942. I'd be 2 years old here. You can see I had quite a head of hair. So I was kind of a little monster then. Okay, go to the next one.
Next one.
Okay. No, well, I think that's on a sequence, but that's okay. Do you have the one up there with is there one with Boy Scouts in there? Yeah, okay, let's go to here. So if you look down here in the lower right, that's my dad, right? With the tie on and Troop 21 on the side. That's my dad.
Yeah, and you guys.
This is me right here. I don't know, can you see can you see my arrow or not?
I think so.
No? There's a kid at the bottom holding a plaque. I'm the kid to the left. I'm the kid. So as you can see, I was pretty small. Up in the far right, I still remember my buddies on the far right. That's Stuart wearing shorts, and that's Meatball over here, okay? So those were my buddies. And I lived in Chicago, but somehow or other, I was attracted to the wilderness. And I don't know why. I think one of the things, I think you're born with it. I think it's a gene. No, I really do.
Yeah, I think so.
And either you can be born with a like that can turn to love. You can be born with hate, which can turn to tolerance. But you probably can't be born with hate and turn to love. So I did a lot of camping with the Boy Scouts, and that's how I got into all this stuff. Okay, let's see. Go back to when I was a kid. Show the ones of the kids ones first. Okay, go to when I was younger.
This one?
Right, okay, beyond that, there's some others that when I was younger. Keep going. No, go way back. There's another. Okay, maybe go back to the other. I'll try to. They're way out of order, but that's okay.
No.
All right, yeah, this is. I started doing trips with kids, and we did trips in both the boundary waters, and we took them into Ontario, and we did some tough rivers in Ontario. We did the Steel River in Ontario. We did the Gull River in Ontario. What else did we do? There were several more that we did, but we didn't take kids and do normal portages. We took them down the main body of the river, and there were no portages. This is the boundary waters, by the way. This was actually the Frost River route described in my boundary waters book, and they had to haul stuff over logs and through brush and stuff. It was very adventurous. So this is kind of how I started out. Okay, show another.
You guys.
Hi, we can hear you.
Good. You can hear her now? You can hear Clarissa? Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So what do you want to do? You want to go through more of the slide? Oh, these are, okay. This will be all over the place because we don't have an order. There are certain trips I remember. This happens to be the Steel River in Ontario. And I remember this for several reasons. Kevin will remember this trip, but one of the reasons why I remember this most of all is because I got a black fly up my nose, and he bit me inside my nose.
Whoa!
And it bled bloody murder. And then what happened was, since that day, it's never been right. I've had that nostril cauterized 3 or 4 times. Still, I get bloody noses, and it's always in my left nostril where that little beggar bit me. So I'll never forget the Steel River just for that.
The most memorable trip, Cliff.
Well, that's a memorable one. What else you got? Let's see.
Wow.
Okay, this is from the first trip on the Hood. And there were literally thousands of caribou. Thousands. Now, for those who aren't familiar with caribou, you really can't tell the males from the females. The males are bigger, of course, and they have bigger racks, but the females all have racks too. But there were so many of them swimming side by side, and you could stroke their backs with your paddle. And I remember one incident where there was a little caribou swimming along, and it was like his mom putting her head like underneath him, trying to keep his head up in the water. He's probably a newborn. I said, oh, my God, this is incredible. Then when I got back to Yellowknife, I told the park or the ranger there what I saw. And he said, they don't do that. I said, well, I saw them do that. Well, they don't do that. Okay, they don't do that. Maybe this was just a really amazing, smart, wonderful mom, but I'll never forget that. It was very touching. Okay, Go ahead. What's next? This is from the wedding.
There we go.
I don't know why I can't hear you guys.
Oh, you can't hear us? Wait a minute. My sound is on. Clarissa, check your sound. See if your sound button's on. You'll have to ask.
We can hear you.
I can hear Clarissa.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear Clarissa. Maybe her microphone's not up loud enough, or her microphone's turned off. So look in the lower left corner and see if your microphone's turned on.
I can hear you guys. Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is the toaster, and that story is we got married at Wilberforce Falls, and right before that, about a mile upstream, we met a couple of miners who were at a mining camp that had been closed down. And they wouldn't tell us what they were looking for, but we had evidently it was secret. But we had a nice chat, and we told them we were getting married a mile across the tundra. We invited them to the wedding. So they said, okay. So the next day they walked over, and they brought a present in a box. And we opened it, and it was a toaster. I
love that.
And I still have the toaster. We have the toaster in the living room. So yeah, that's the story. Some people, if you go back to that one, some people, if you're going to be at the Quiet Water Symposium in Lansing, Michigan, or Canoecopia in Madison, I've got a whole bunch of pictures like this. We'll be telling a lot more stories. But this is just very limited time. Okay, CW, go ahead.
All right. So now we got a few pictures of my visit to you and Susie.
Yeah. Look Look at her. Isn't she gorgeous? She's gorgeous. Look at her. She drinks margaritas pretty good, too.
There you go, man. This is in River Falls, Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. There's Susie on the left. There's me.
Excellent Mexican restaurant. Yeah, that you.
And and CW.
It was so nice to meet you guys in person, and the food was great as well.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the best sangria though? Wasn't that sangria?
Yeah, that's right. We had sangria. Yeah, those were good.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey, there's the red car. That's the car, man.
That's the tail. That's the tail end of my little red car. It's 29 years old. There it is. 29 years old now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I sat in that thing. I believe I did. Maya, do you remember, Cliff? I think I may have sat in that car.
I don't know, but it's been a lot of fun. And people talk about BMWs. I have two older ones, and how troublesome they're. These cars have been two of the most trouble-free cars I've ever owned. I have 140,000 miles basically on each of them, and other than normal maintenance, I haven't put any money into.
There's the famous Cliff.
Yeah. By the way, if you're wondering what this on the rim of that glass, that's Tajin, Tajin. When I was in Los Angeles with Clarissa some years ago, we were in a restaurant, and this is a real deal Mexican restaurant, and they made the best margaritas I've had in any restaurant in LA. And the person tending the bar was the owner. And so I told her how much I loved the margaritas. She came, she sat down, we talked for a while. And she said, "You want to use Tajin on the rim?" She said, "Don't use salt." She says, "Because if you use salt, what happens is every time you take a sip, the salt dilutes the drink and gets in the drink and changes the flavor of the drink." She says, "Put Tajin on the rim, Tajin." Now, you can get this at almost any grocery store. What it is, it's kind of a lime chili pepper stuff. You put it on the rim. It's great taste. I know. Maya, are you familiar with Tajin?
No, I'm not.
No,
never heard of it.
No, I don't know if we call a different name here, but
it says on the label it's Tajin, Tajin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are real deal margaritas. When we get done tonight, I might have to make one.
We're that tough to swallow, huh, Cliff?
Yeah.
He's gonna need a drink. I love it.
We had fun out there on the deck, didn't we?
That was a great time.
Gosh, yeah, it was a blast.
Yeah.
I used to remember and missing that day.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell you something. 11 years ago, and I met you some time before that, but 11 years ago, you were signing my book here, and it was at one of the Canoecopias. And, I sat there for a moment and thought, when I first spoke to this guy on the phone, because you left your phone number on the video, Camping's Forgotten Skills. And so I called him, and I thought to myself, remember when you first called this guy back in whatever year it was? And now, did you ever imagine that you'd be sitting on his back deck of his house drinking? He made, it's just funny how things evolve like that. You never know. You know
what? That goes back to what Maya just said. Do you have a regret? I don't have a regret as such, but I regret that somehow some big radio TV company didn't pick you up to do a show like this. No, I'm serious, because your shows with the outdoor people thing or the camping site, nobody in North America is doing shows like this. And yours was outstanding. And these guys just don't have the vision to see what a show like this would do. They just don't have the vision. But I really miss the camping show with CW. I really miss it.
I really appreciate that, Cliff. That means a lot. Honestly, That means a lot coming from you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
So in this, there you go. The cheers we had to get. Susie took that picture, and then God bless her. She's the best. She really is.
She's a good girl.
Oh yeah. we got a couple of short videos here. If you guys don't mind sticking around for just a few of the couple of these videos, and then we're going to have a little chat when we finish up here, and we'll wind up. But let's hit those videos real quick, Maya.
All right, we're down in the basement of Cliff Jacobson.
I'm getting ready for a trip.
Here we go. All right.
Yes, you are.
We are in Cliff Jacobson's den. Okay, hey, here we go. All right.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go on a canoe trip.
Oh, is that just a short? What happened to the rest of that video? Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's coming up. Let's do it.
Maybe that was it. Yeah. Okay. No, that's the end of it.
Okay. Maybe I screwed
enough on. I want to hear it.
I don't actually think the problem is with my computer. Can you do that?
I like your house.
Yeah.
Look, they both have too much stuff in it.
Let's try another one, Maya. Let's do the next one. I don't know. Maybe I screwed this up.
I think my computer is
okay.
frozen.
All right, we're down in the basement of Cliff Jacobson.
I'm getting ready for a trip.
Here we go. All right.
Yes, you are.
We are in Cliff Jacobson's den. Okay, hey, here we go. All right. Cliff, what do we? Tell us what we're looking at here. What do we got? We've got packs and packs of stuff.
These are packs and paddles and bug tent. Bug tent.
Okay.
Yokes for 3.
Is this the Susie bug tent?
No, this is a big 15 square Dan Cook.
Okay.
Fully netted bug tarp. And I don't know what all
What do we got
else.
here? What do we got in here?
What?
This is a big bag.
That's my pack. That's ready to go. It's got a few more things to close it all up.
How much is it? No, this is what everybody wants to know.
What?
How much does Cliff Jacobson's packs weigh?
Well, not that much. I try to keep the weight to about 40
45? 45? 40 pounds?
40 pounds or something.
Good stuff.
Yeah, something.
Looks like we got a Duluth pack over here.
Yeah,
Both of them, actually.
this is an old square one, and I
Mhm.
like this. I like the old square ones because they sit up.
Is that a number 2, maybe?
That's a number 2. So yeah, it's actually number 2 cruiser.
Cruiser.
It's a square. It's a square pack.
Instead of the
So
rectangle,
it sits up. It sits
Nice.
up. See?
Very nice.
Yeah.
You got carabiners. Hey, you know what? I have a sunglass case like that.
They're hard to find.
I had 2 of them, and I can't tell you where they're at right now.
Yeah,
Those are nice cases. Waterproof. Pretty cool. We got food barrels. Man, look at this. This is the Cliff Jacobson Museum. And what do you charge for tours through here, Cliff? He wants to go and rate.
Oh, I say it's a disaster.
No, this is actually a. I love it.
It's pretty old stuff, most of it. Though.
Very cool. Well, thank you for this tour, Cliff. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right.
Seriously, I mean, we're talking really.
Yeah.
You were bragging up on. I want to hear it.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
what's
Same
going
here.
on?
Yeah, yeah.
You were bragging up on. I want to hear it.
Margaritas?
Yes.
Let's try it.
Thanks. I would love to.
Wow, I like your house.
Yeah.
Look, they both have too much stuff in it.
Mother.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, let's bring everybody back on.
He's not even using one of them big pressers. He's doing this by hand.
Totally.
You videotaped, would you? Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
Yeah, we got a lot of videos on here. I think there's a lot of like I'm taking a lot of memory out of our computer. But those were cool. Cliff made us some, like I said, the killer drinks. I mean, amazing. I've never tasted a margarita that good. So
Did Clarissa ever get on or not?
Yep. She's
So
there.
we're dealing with payroll from my
There we go.
There you go.
I tried. I was like on, like watching you guys, and wanted to be there. So I'm only catching the end of it.
This is my daughter Clarissa. my little screenwriter girl who does voiceover. She's a wonderful voiceover artist.
Oh, Daddy,
She
don't
just
worry about
did
it.
my latest book. She did basic illustrated cooking. She just did a little cookbook.
Well, amazing talent. Amazing
She just changed her hair. She looks starling.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. She always looks great, though, doesn't she? I mean, I've
you
never seen her look bad, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
CW Getz is a married man, I hear.
Yeah. I mean,
Somebody finally nabbed him, I'm telling you.
I love it. You're such a sweetheart. What I think, and so Clarissa, you're rock star of a rock star. Tell us what's going on in your world in Hollywood there and all the, California.
Hollywood, what's going on? Well, it's just been a slow year because we had 2 strikes and a lot of runaway production and commercial. It's been hard, but things are hopefully rearing up again, and the strikes are over. I actually saw filming 2 days ago in the streets, and I was like, that is such a good sight.
Yeah,
it's been like a year since I've seen trucks.
Wow.
You used to bitch about it. You'd be like, they're blocking the lanes. No, now we're like happy to see them. So yeah.
People are working. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's cool.
Did you tell them we're going to a film festival in Ely?
Oh yeah, that's what's really cool too. I co-directed a film about my friend, and
awesome.
It got into the Ely Film Fest, which it's a relatively new festival. I think it's 2 years old. So a woman had told me about what a great festival it was, and I was like, wow, that'd be fun to go to a festival in Ely with my dad.
And now it's going to happen.
And now it's really happening because I'm going to be in Canoeing in Minnesota anyway. So me and Dad are going to go down to the festival in Ely, which is supposed to be just a wonderful little festival from what I hear. So
right?
She produced a little short film called Butts, which is kind of it's a documentary about a guy who is only, I think, 3 foot 10 inches tall. He lives in a wheelchair.
No, he doesn't.
Well,
no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
He can use a walker. But because he's so little, all he sees is other people's butts. Okay, that's
he has a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is really rare, but it's a brittle bone disease where you break your bones. So he's broken over 150 bones in his life.
Oh.
And they said he wasn't going to live till past the age of 13. He's in his 50s now. So he's amazing. And he wrote this really, really funny short about what it's like to be him. And usually when you see shorts about people he doesn't even like the word handicap, but when you see shorts like that, it's like you feel sorry for them, or, and that's like his pet peeve. He's like, I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me. I'm going to show you my worst side. Like, he's kind of a jerk sometimes in it. And it's like, he's like, I'm just a real person. I might be in this body that's 3'11". And so he wrote this really funny but poignant little short, 9-minute short. And Shane and I, my creative partner, we directed it and produced it. And it's making the festival rounds. So cool. And we were in Spain last year. So it's just kind of starting out. And we get to go to Ely, which is the coolest.
Love it. I love it, man. Such a talented family. But yeah, I mean, honestly, from way back, I mean, it sounds like, which, I had no idea until I heard the stories. I'm hearing a lot of these stories for the first time, honestly.
So are you. And you know what? We won our first award, Maya, in Brazil.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you that.
Brazil, our pals in Brazil. We got in a festival in Brazil, and we got an honorable mention for best documentary.
That's so cool.
So Brazil was our first award. Thank you, Brazil.
Oh,
I love it.
Thought of you.
You're going to be you're going to be at Canoecopia this year.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to miss it.
Yeah, and so I already told my wife. I said you're going to meet Cliff Jacobson. You're going to meet Kevin Callan.
Oh, Kevin's going to be there. I was going to ask. Kevin's going to be there. Right on.
And you're going to meet Clarissa, the famous Clarissa. So yes, absolutely.
I think Kevin's met Clarissa before, haven't you?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure.
I
wasn't sure he was going to be there because I know that your other buddy.
Hey, talking about that, Kevin, how old is your daughter now?
20, and I met her boyfriend.
20.
That's fun.
I met her boyfriend. She was You would be proud of me. I could have said everything possible that was negative. Really nice guy, but typical dad. I would. But they went to my show in Hamilton, packed house, and they were sitting there. And 3/4 way through, I showed videos of her canoeing with me when she was like 5, and she's talking about some dragonfly having sex, and I was so proud.
Nice.
Did she? I'm curious. Does she love this canoeing camping stuff? Yes or no?
Yeah, and it's also coming back on her too. She has those memories, so she's doing camping with her friends and stuff. It's not cool to be with her dad anymore. Yeah. That makes sense. But yeah, it's that whole time
she didn't, and then you were kind of like hopeful that she would, but that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Kevin. Here's the question: did she love her daddy?
Oh God.
Oh, her and I are like that. Yeah.
All right, so you know what? That's all that counts.
The scary thing is she's 10 times more hyper than I am.
Yeah, but that's
terrifying.
We didn't even know that was really.
Your hyperness is awesome.
Wow.
I mean,
I love it. Yeah. You know, Maya, we have a question. We have a list of. Go ahead and hit him with number 9 because I'm curious about this.
Oh, okay.
Back to our regularly scheduled program.
9. I'm so confused. So, Cliff, which event will officially be your last presentation, and what is the date of the presentation?
Yeah, well, my last one is going to be at Canoecopia, and that would be. That's it. And that's about 2 weeks from now, 2.5 weeks, something like that. Yeah. What is it? March? When is it?
7th, 8th, and 9th, I believe.
I think it's March 6, 7, 8, something like that. I don't have the count, but that's it. Yeah, that's going to be my last presentation. Wow. Because everybody's got to know. Everybody should know when it's time to quit. You know, I don't. It's like I said. I don't want. I don't want to fall off the ladder while I'm on top of it. I'd rather climb down gracefully.
Yeah.
I know. That's what he said. He's like,
no, I'm fine with it. I am. I'm.
When did you know that, Cliff? When did you say, you know what?
Well, here's the thing, and Kevin will bear this out. Here's the thing about doing this kind of stuff. Every time you do a trip, you learn something. It might be the tiniest little thing, but it's something that goes into your brain. So when you do these presentations, even though you may do the same presentation again year after year, there's always a little different twist or something to it that you've programmed your mind because of things that have happened on that trip. Okay. Now, when you quit doing those trips, and I'm done canoeing in Canada now. It's not. I hope I'm still welcome there. I can. Okay, but I can't do those big portages anymore, carry all that gear anymore. All right. So the point is, if I'm going to tell people about what to do on these canoe trips, then I need to be totally up to date all the time. And now it's been several years, 10 years since I've done a probably canoe trip in Canada now. Okay. And what I'm suggesting, the nuts and bolts aren't going to change, but there's little subtle things you pick up that do change. And I don't have that knowledge anymore. And I don't want to just keep repeating the same old stuff again. Okay. So, what you get from when people read my books, they're going to get the nuts and bolts of doing a safe trip. But there's a lot of little tiny things that they would probably now be better off to listen to Kevin about because he's still doing it. Okay? He's still doing it. So you have to keep doing it to be on the top of your game. I think it's like anything. If you're playing tennis or shooting a rifle or going canoeing, if you stop doing it, then you lose some of the, like one of the things I've noticed, like say, what have you noticed since you've been old? Well, I still think I'm a pretty good whitewater paddler, but I had an incident last summer that really made me wake up and smell the coffee perkin'. And here's what it was. I was going down. There's a local river near our house called the Kennebec. It's a class 1 trout stream. It's all rapids, but they're not very big. It's like, riffles, class 1. You might hit low class 2, certain height. Okay, and it's winding and it's just constant paddling. Well, it's a very narrow river, so there's always a lot of stuff across it. So it was one of the early spring trips, and I was with some other people. And so I'm going down this river, and there's a strainer that goes across 3/4 across the way. There's a hole in the strainer that if you were lined up right, you could just make it. But I ferried ashore on river left. Okay, so now I'm ashore on river left. I could have just now got out of the canoe and walked the canoe 50 feet. Okay, 50 feet, and I'm home free. But I didn't want to get out of my canoe. I had a kind of a leg problem, hip problem. I just didn't want to get out of the boat. And I looked at that strainer and I said, I can do this. I've done this many times before. I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to back ferry out into the current. I'm going to do a quick, snappy right turn, and I'm going to be lined up for this thing. Okay? And I backed it out, the usual distance that I would normally do it. And I swung over to spin that canoe, and I didn't have the power.
Wow.
And I almost made it, but I didn't. Broadside, went into the strainer, canoe was belly open into the current. So I'm standing there hip deep in water, trying to pull this canoe up. I wanted to get it belly up into the current. And then there was a kayaker guy who was about 20 years old, big guy, who'd crashed and burned further upstream, and I kind of helped him out. I grabbed his stuff. So he came out and he helped me. We got it out. But I learned a lesson. And the lesson is, yeah, Cliff, you can still keep doing this stuff, but you don't have the power you had when you were younger. So if you're going to start a ferry, you got to start it a little earlier. If you're going to do an eddy turn, you got to start that a little earlier. Okay? And if it's a real complex rapid that requires very, 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 very complex, fast maneuvering, you may not make it. So you just can't do some of the things you did before because of your age. And that was an important lesson.
Yeah.
So it's time for me to quit.
No, we got a Canadian thing here. So I think that the way you're thinking as well. I'm only 61, whatever, but I've been around. But we call it the Loverboy. Okay, so there's a Canadian band called Loverboy. They should not be playing anymore. They should not be on stage anymore. Loverboy. Like,
really? Is it that?
Put it away.
Really?
It was a big Canadian band.
Well, I know Loverboy working for the weekend.
Yeah, they're still playing.
But they shouldn't. You're saying
no. I went to a concert. No.
Why?
What? Well, it's because it's the same thing. Like, we got it. Okay.
There.
But I went to see the lead singer of Glass Tiger a few weeks ago.
I remember that band.
Yeah. Yeah. He was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Like the best singer in the world. Like it was the greatest concert ever. So I'm thinking, okay, don't be Loverboy, but Glass Tiger is pretty good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It all depends.
It's really subjective. It depends who it is and what they're doing and all. Yeah.
What you're doing after the fact. Yeah. Like, yes, don't keep going back to the 70s and 80s and keep pushing those hits that everybody knows.
Right.
And because you can't sing like that anymore, right?
No, but actually, I got to say, Glass Tiger, the lead singer, he had a stroke before. He almost died, and then he was on stage and he was booting it like you wouldn't believe. I was like, this guy's a performer. Like, no. Well, he was Scottish. That probably means a lot. So.
Well, that's probably it. Yeah. You know what? So let me ask you this. Cliff, when you came to that conclusion, that decision, was it a little sad for you, or are you comfortable with that?
It bothered me for a long time.
Okay.
It was embarrassing. And the reason why it was embarrassing is it's a river that I have done conservatively 100 times. In summer, in fall, in ice out, with all sorts of crap across it that was far worse. Never a problem. And this was only a problem not because first of all, I'd done it right. I had done it how you should do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't accept that. Oh, if I hadn't had the hip problem, I would have said, no, baby, no, it just got out of the canoe and hauled. But I didn't want to get out of the canoe. That's what caused the problem. And that was the eye opener. I wasn't willing to get out of the canoe to complete the safe thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So,
well, Cliff, though, what about changing the route but keeping the journey?
well, that's what I'm doing. Like, it's right after I get back from Ely with Clarissa for the film festival, then I'm doing a week trip on the Jack's Fork and Current Rivers in Missouri in solo canoes. That's all I paddle anymore. I only paddle solo boat now. I don't paddle tandem at all.
Well, and that was going to be my next question, or actually Maya's next question. By the way, Maya's computer got hot, and she said it got hot and it shut itself down. She goes, "I'm going to try to come back on with my phone."
Oh my
said,
God!
Yeah, give it a. But it's a million degrees. Oh, here's Maya.
Oh,
says, I'm here. Where is she at? I'm here. Oh, there she is. I have to add her. I had my screen scrolled down. I couldn't.
Oh my God! Are you on your phone, Maya? Or are you on the computer?
I am in my phone. My computer needs a break.
Yeah, there she is. I'm sorry, I didn't see you down there, Maya.
Lots of ice.
Hey, I wonder if you could get a little tiny fan and put the fan pointing at your computer to keep it cool. Maybe your cooling fan isn't.
Yeah, but it's going to be too noisy for the mic.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It would be.
Hey, Maya, it's minus 22 here right now.
Oh my God. I am so jealous.
He's such a tease, isn't he,
We
Maya?
can exchange.
Yeah.
Hey, I apologize. I didn't see you because I have to scroll my screen down to see you down there in the bottom because we got 5 screens going on. Which, you know what? By the way, I can get rid of that anyway. In fact, let me do that. I'm going to do that, and this one can be kicked off the air. There we go. Okay, now I can see. Now you can see it back up in the queue. I don't have to scroll down. Hey, but so here's the thing. Maya, go ahead and ask him the question because I'm curious too. I think there's only one, but you go ahead and ask your question.
If you are sorry, all my notes are on my phone.
Oh, well, basically, are there any shows before your last show? Or is that
that's all done?
Where are you going to be? Are you going to be at any other shows, doing any presentations before Canoecopia, or is that it?
No, Canoecopia is coming right up next. Not next weekend. The weekend after that is Quiet Water Symposium, and then the following weekend is Canoecopia. So I'm going to be at those 2 shows.
Okay,
and then that's it.
Okay, so you are at QAS. You're going to be at
I'm going to be at QAS. Yeah,
there you go.
That's a wonderful show. I love that show.
I do remember a story.
Kevin's going to be there.
Yeah, I love that show. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
it is. It's a great show. Here's a funny part. I remember a story that was it Kevin or Darlene Patterson, or maybe both of you shared about Cliff, and I think this would be a very appropriate time to hear that story again. And why can't we hear Clarissa?
I don't know. She must be having a problem with something.
Did she hit the mute button or no?
I don't know. She can't see.
Oh, there you go. Now we hear you.
Yeah, but I'm trying to deal with. Oh, God.
Oh, she's probably.
Clarissa's going to need one of those.
She's trying to deal with a problem.
Margarita. You're going to need a margarita, Clarissa. Let's hear the story. I mean, because this is a great story. So we're at QAS, right? And we're in. I'm trying to think where it is in Michigan. East Lansing.
East Lansing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what happens? What happens? Set us up. Tell us the story about Cliff and the drug dealers.
And the what?
No, that's right.
That's it. Yeah. Okay, Maya. I don't know if Maya's heard this story. Share it, Kevin. You can only tell it. Nobody can tell it like you.
Okay, don't ever drive with Cliff Jacobson. Never.
What happened?
Never.
Walk us through this.
Never. Oh, this is years ago. Actually, this is an old story. But
you mean when we got lost at the time?
Oh yeah, no, Cliff. Remember who is was it Mark? The sales guy for those boots? The really good.
Chota. Charlie.
Yeah. He would travel with us. And the great guy, and he knew all the great restaurants. Right. So we went out to go, but Cliff was driving, and we're in the car, and he's I don't know if it was that red little sports thing.
I was going to ask, is it the red car? Yeah.
Oh yeah, but it was a snowstorm. He's like, and we're trying to find this place, and Cliff decides to stop to ask directions to a local. The local was actually doing a cocaine deal.
What?
No, you didn't even clue in. Like both of us were like, Cliff, they're doing a coke deal. Like, don't talk to them. And you never, to this day, you don't even remember that happening. But they were actually handing money and coke back and forth. But they did give us directions, so that was nice.
Well, so that was polite of them.
Yes.
All drug dealers are not bad people. Okay.
And then Cliff spun out, and he's like, and ended up the restaurant was right beside the hotel. Like we had driven probably for an hour trying to find the place. And it was 3 minutes away from where we started.
No.
Well, you know what? That was, we got confused between Lansing there's East Lansing and there's Lansing.
That is what happened. That is what happened. But we did get some cocaine to have after dinner.
Oh my God. That's a great story. And Darlene, was she there too, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. She was in the back seat, and I think her tears are still on the seat.
And the claw mark, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Well, what's next? I think we got one more. Maya. Oh wait, okay. We already did. Hey, one thing. Maya's going to ask where we can reach you, but I want to know: are there any more? What's next for Cliff Jacobson? Any more canoe trips that you got planned?
Yeah, well, I'm still going to paddle. I'm still going to go canoeing, and I'm still going to go camping.
Really?
But I can do that. It's not an issue. But
listen to this, kids. Listen to this, kids. 80. How many old are you again? 84.
84. Yeah.
84 years old, and he's still camping in a tent. And
people my age don't do that.
I'm just saying, you young people got it all figured out. Let's see if you're doing what.
Well, as
you live that long,
as Kevin will attest, if you know what you're doing, camping in a tent is just as comfortable in it's just as comfortable as almost your bed. It's certainly more comfortable in some of the hotels I've been in.
Well, do you know, I was thinking about you as we were looking through the Class A Van Halen tour buses at the Chicago RV show, and by the way, at this was show price $500,000 show price, kids. This is specials. These are like a big percentage off of the regular price. And I thought of Cliff Jacobson. I thought, you know what? Here's a guy who's still camping in a tent, and how many people are doing that at half of his age? Really?
Well, it just goes back to what we talked about earlier. If you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to be comfortable. Who was it? Was it Horace Capehart? I think it was was it Horace Capehart who said, "I come to the wilderness to smooth it, not to rough it."
Was that Nesmith or was that?
Maybe that was Nesmith.
I think that was.
Yes.
I think that was him.
But that's. Even on that, we've had some trips where it's been where it rains for days and days and days, and the wind doesn't quit blowing. We've had some tough trips, but I can never, ever remember any time since I was 14 that I've ever been wet on a canoe trip, of water either getting in my tent or making me so miserable wet that I thought I was going to do hypothermia on any trip. I mean, not since I've been doing this.
That's amazing.
Well, it's not really. It's not amazing. It's just knowing the skills to. You know what? It's like, here's the deal. It's like before you knew how to drive, and you got in that car and you started to drive. You were scared to death when you were driving the first few weeks or two. Okay, and then as you gain more skill, then you got confident. Eventually too confident.
Then you got
then you had an accident or a near miss. And then all of a sudden you woke up and you said, whoa, I can't do it this way anymore. Well, that's what you gain from experience doing canoeing and camping. So you get to the point where, that's one of the revelations for me that I really found interesting was when I started canoeing like across the Everglades. I mean, and doing some of the western U.S. rivers like the Rio Grande. This is a different environment, okay? You have things that bite and things that sting and things that burn, okay? And in the Everglades, you have a whole different environment to deal with. This was a learning situation. I didn't know anything about canoeing there, but you send me to Canada, and I got it figured out. I know how to approach all the obstacles, what to do. That doesn't mean I can't get in trouble, but I pretty much know by looking at it that if I do that, I'm going to get in trouble, so I don't do it, okay? But in the Everglades and in the desert rivers, this is a different ball game. And so that was an eye-opener for me, and I probably never would have even done those things if I hadn't said, okay, I can't do these wild Canadian trips anymore. Now I'm going to do some of these U.S. rivers. And I always thumb my nose up at U.S. rivers. You know, come on, I want to go to Canada. But I got to tell you, there's been a couple of them that I've done that are just right on up there with some of my favorite Canadian rivers. That was the Rio Grande is the example.
Cliff, did you ever get to the point where you were cocky, where you said, you know, something, and maybe get in a little trouble doing so?
You know, I think that my virtue is that I don't do that. In fact, one of my very proudest moments was when I was many years ago, and I had built the prototype, the wood strip canoe, which we called Mantoy, which ultimately we sold to Old Town, and it became the CJ Solo. Well, Old Town screwed it up. They plumbed up the stems. They took the rocker out of it. No, mine had big swept back curved stems on it and had 2 inches of rocker. And it was like a slalom canoe.
Wow.
And this is the telling thing. There's the St. Croix River in Minnesota. It divides Minnesota and Wisconsin. There's an area called the Dells. It goes over a dam. It's a natural whitewater runway. And it's class 2 stuff, but it's a lot of maneuvering, okay? And it's such that if you capsize, with a life jacket on, you're going to be fine. But it's a great practice because there's big waves and it's powerful. So I was out there playing around in my wood strip solo canoe, and I noticed they were setting up gates. They were making this a U.S. national whitewater qualifying course, okay? And so they have these gates all set up, and then I ferried in somewhere or whatever, and there was a young woman who, as I remember to this day, her name was Kristen Frisch. She had red hair. She was maybe 20, something like that. And she says, I've been watching you, Cliff. She said, you know, you're pretty good. She says, I'm going to do this solo too. She says, but I would like to do some runs tandem because I might get a tandem partner and do this tandem. She said, would you paddle bow for me? I said, yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. So this was shortly after I'd taken some whitewater training from a guy by the name of Al Button, who was a whitewater, U.S. whitewater. I was in the top of the whitewater games nationally. And so we get in, we go around the gates, we do all around this, and then we put ashore and everything. And then I'll never forget it. Then she says to me, you know, Cliff, you're pretty good. You know, why don't you enter this thing? You know, you might be competitive. I said, no. I said, I'll be honest with you, Chris. I said, these great big waves, you know, these great big waves, they kind of get to me, kind of freaks me out. And she looked me right in the eye and she says, I'll never forget this exact words. You know, Cliff, you got more ability than guts. I cherish that. I cherish that.
Yeah.
She said, you have more skill than guts. That was her word. And I do. And you know what? That's what kept me out of trouble.
Yeah.
I can look at something and I can say, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can do that. But hey, I got $3,000 worth of stuff in my boat. Maybe not.
And the opposite will get you killed. Am I right?
It may not get you killed, but it just may cause a capsize. Yeah. And a capsize is not a funny thing on a wilderness trip because everything's a mess.
Yeah.
Everything's got to come out of the boats. It's got to be open. If you have a capsize, you're looking at you're looking at probably 2 hours down just to deal with the rescue and getting everything out of the boat and checking to see what's wet that has to be dried out or whatever. But the worst thing actually about the capsize isn't that, it's that it makes you gun shy for the rest of the day, maybe for the rest of the next day, which means that all of a sudden you've lost a big major share of your confidence. And that can pay bad dividends if up around the bend there's another rapid. Because your mental, where you are mentally makes a big difference in dealing with this stuff. Right, Kev?
Mental fortitude.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've covered a lot of ground. This is probably the longest episode I've ever done. Maybe we'll ever do. But I have enjoyed myself 100%, and I'm not exaggerating on that. Kevin, I'm so thrilled that you were able to join us, and the episode wouldn't have been complete without you. And you've
but also remember though, the next time we're going to meet is in Brazil, and we're going to be paddling naked.
That's right. Well, bring your flags. At least if worst case scenario, you can cover with your flag, your home country flag. Awesome. But and by the way, thank you to Clarissa. She popped out and on us, and then Maya just said her phone was overheating too. So it's very hot in Brazil. So yeah. But anyway, I know she would tell me or want me to tell you, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for being such wonderful guests. And thank you. And this comes from both her and I. Thank you, Cliff, for being such a huge, a monster contribution to camping, canoeing, and all that is outdoors. And and so I can't say enough about that. So you'll be terribly missed.
I'll still be here. I'm still going to be here. I'm not dead yet.
I don't mean that, but I mean you'll be missed at events like Canoecopia and QAS. People that go there each year, looking forward to seeing you again. Some meeting you for the first time, and listening to your wonderful presentations. And I must say they are wonderful presentations.
Well, thank you very much, and Kevin, thanks for coming aboard, man.
Oh, no problem. I've listened to all your advice throughout my career, my life, and we're good friends, bud. And it was the greatest honor ever to be on the stage and debating back and forth with you.
So I'll see you in a couple of weeks. We'll have some good whiskey and share some good times.
Yeah, for sure.
And by the way, mentioning that before I close here, was that last year the last year for the what do we call that when you guys are on stage together and going back and forth?
We had a panel. They didn't want the panel this year.
Okay. So
we have the panel at QAS. Okay.
Yeah, we're doing that at the Quiet Water or Quiet Adventure in Lansing. We're doing that.
Okay, good. Because
but the Canoecopia, no, we're not. So yeah.
So the last time people will be able to see you doing that is at the QAS show in Lansing.
Yeah, I think because I swore too much at Canoecopia, I used profanity.
We were there. We recorded that for you guys, and apparently we didn't do a good enough job because we weren't invited to do that again. So, but maybe that's just because you're not doing the show. I thought maybe we just sucked or something. But
I think because we never solved the question. I think it was the first question: is it portage or portage? And
we're stuck on it.
So they said no, we're not having them back again.
we didn't get a definite one. Well, so the thing is, tell people when the QAS is because they're going to want to know.
QAS is let me see. The exact day. They can go online and go to just type in Quiet Adventure Symposium. Okay. Quiet Adventure Symposium. And the date of that's coming up in just 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Let me find my calendar. Where's my goofy calendar? Here it is. Okay. So QAS is, nope, hang on. It's the 20. Yeah, QAS is Saturday, which would be the 1st of March.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just a one-day show.
It's just one and done, man.
Just
Yeah.
one
Is
day.
it March
And-
1st where it comes in like lion and goes out like lamb? Isn't it?
Yeah, sort of. But it's a great one-day show. It's a wonderful one-day show.
It is.
Everybody who works there is a volunteer. So the emphasis is really on learning things and sharing the love of the wilderness. There's stuff for sale, of course, and there's a lot of cool stuff for sale, vendors. But the emphasis is on really more on that, not on selling anything. The following weekend now is, okay, it starts on the 7th. 7, 8, and 9 is Canoecopia. And I'm going to be doing some shows on Friday and Saturday. But Sunday morning at 10:30, I'm doing my last picture show. That's a double block time block. They were kind enough to give me a double time block for it. So
let's have you repeat that again. That's going to be Sunday is going to be what now?
Sunday morning, 10:30, right out of the box. I'm going to be doing my last picture show, remembering a lifetime of canoeing wild rivers. And that'll be, see you guys.
That's so cool. All right. And before we leave here, Cliff, let's tell people where they can find you on the internet.
Well, first of all, all I have to do is type my name in and you'll find my website. It'll come right up. But if you forget, it's www.cliffcanoe.com.
Easy.
That's it.
Easy one to remember.
And you can contact me there. Just do a contact. I'll be happy to get back to you. I try to get back to people within a day or two. Yeah. And I love hearing from people. And so, yeah.
So cool.
And if you want to chat, we can make arrangements for a phone call. We can do that too.
That's awesome. You're a very, you accommodate everyone. And I'll say, I know no other rock star that does that as well. And, is very generous as you. So,
well,
Cliff and Kevin, I want to thank both of you for being our guests here on tonight's episode of Outdoors People. Cliff Jacobson's Cliff Jacobson's final tour. So it's the rock star thing, right? So yeah, I love it. Well, I will say this then to close this out, along with Maya Marzaki, who bowed out here against her against her will, I guess, along with Maya Marzaki. This is CW Getz saying thank you for tuning in to Outdoors People. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. It was an honor.